This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It is hard to beat a Mara sunrise, but here in Djuma we still do get pretty lucky with views like this early in the morning. My name is Patrick. Joining me on camera today we have Craig, and if you have any questions or any comments, use that hashtag SafariLive on Twitter or the YouTube chat stream. So this morning we were on the hunt for Hosanna here in the Kruger National Park on the western boundary of the, Djuma Game Reserve, western boundary of the Kruger National Park. So we have come down to this pan here and we have only been able to find 2 impala, one mother with a little lambie, which I would love to show you all. So let me just reposition here for a second and we'll see if we can get a good view of the little youngster. It's a beautiful morning this morning, 21 degrees, 69 degrees Fahrenheit. Absolutely lovely. Nice and crisp, but not cold. It is perfect. I just came down this way. It's beautiful at the moment having impala lambing season. It's absolutely gorgeous to see them. Sorry, can you please repeat that, Luke? Oh, yeah. No worries. It looks like we have lost this pair. Just having a look around. I'm not sure where they could have gone. Oh well. Let's see what we have here at the pan. So we've got quite a few birds here at the moment. Looks like we've got some Egyptian geese out here to the left. No, they're not Egyptian geese. What have we got? Let's zoom in. Just, yeah, there in the middle. So we've got the Hardy-Dar ibis picking through the grass there. And I won't call them the Australian name that we give the ibis. Anyone from Australia watching on will probably know what I'm referring to, a particular song about the ibis. And we've got some blacksmith's lapwings down here at the moment, which actually for once are not making sound. Just, there we go. So they are a common sight here at Djuma, down by any body of water, and they are usually making this, I'll risk it and say irritating sound of, it kind of sounds like a hammer hitting an anvil, hence the name blacksmith lapwing. And they do not stop. This is probably the first time I've ever seen one silent. They really feel like they need to be heard. Jamie, it doesn't seem like any of the lapwing chicks are still alive. Or if not, they're definitely not with their parents, because I haven't seen any, not just with these 2 here, but at other pans and dams as well. I haven't seen any chicks. Must be something about water birds and chicks that they just don't seem to raise them very well, because we see the same thing with the Egyptian geese. They lose their young quite quickly, unfortunately. Looks like we got some red-billed weavers up in the tree too. Looks like one's building a nest actually. Or these red-billed buffalo weaver. I swear I saw one with a bit of twig in its mouth. You can see towards the right-hand side of the tree that there's a bit of a nest hanging off that end branch there. And this is the one that had something in its mouth, I think. It's very cool to watch. One of the few birds here that we often do see in groups. They will work together, so to speak. And there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wow, okay, there's a lot more than what I first thought. There's probably about 8 or 9 in that tree right now, spread out all across the tree, playing their part. Yeah, just like an apartment block. Exactly right there, Lou, good call. In the big city of the bush, where your buildings are your trees. Alright, I think we've done enough birding for now, so let's reposition, move off and see if we can spot Posy Boy this morning. Remember, if you do have any questions or comments about anything that's happening, send them in using that hashtag SafariLive. I love to interact with you and show you my intellect. So we had an awesome drive, was it yesterday morning, I think. There's a lot of lions in the area at the moment, which is kind of what we're also keeping a little bit of an eye out for. There's been lions mating, lions on kills. So it's always good to have the lions moving through. And also actually a lot of leopard action as well. We saw a little claramba the other day, which is awesome. It's always good to see around. And Tingana as well. Yes, Deb, I fully agree with you on that one. It is very green after the rain, and it is awesome to see. I was saying the other day that I went away to Cape Town for 5 days, and in the time that I was away, this place got so much greener. I couldn't actually believe it coming back. It makes the place feel really, really fresh, really new. And it's actually been a bit of a challenge for myself. I'm not sure about the other trainees, but trying to learn all this new stuff, trying to identify trees that we had only seen dead before or without leaves at least, and now they're all with leaves and fruits. It's almost like coming into a completely new ecosystem. It's also obviously good for the animals as well. A lot of the browsers and the grazers are going to have replenished food stocks, higher nutrients. The struggle, at least for now, is temporarily eased up for them. So I haven't actually seen Hosanna for quite some time now. I would like to see him today. Sorry Lou, I just didn't quite catch that. The difference between something in the bushveld, was it? Oh, marine environment and the bush. Sorry, I didn't catch the name of that question. Industuli? Sorry if I got that wrong. So parallels between the marine and the terrestrial environment. I'm actually noticing quite a few. Obviously, this is a very different place to the underwater, but still with nature, everything is connected. Whether you're in land or on the ocean, there is always something that's tying you together. And I'm seeing that a lot, actually, with animals like the elephant and the hippo that have kind of direct links with marine creatures. And some of the similarities is actually quite astounding, especially with hippopotamuses, hippopotami. The fact that they will have to keep themselves wet to allow them to continue to live, because their skin will dry out if they don't. It's exactly like dolphins and whales and other marine mammals, you know, they can still breathe on land. They just don't have the adaptations to live on land. And you can kind of see that intermediate with the hippos, which I think is really cool. As well as the fact that they also do, I think 80% of their vocalizations underwater, which is really cool. And apparently they do sound a lot like that of a whale or a dugong or a manatee. So yeah, I think hippos really are such a link between the land and the sea. And apart from that, I mean, there's other things like harems, which is, you know, a dominant male and his group of females in an area, which, I mean, they're exactly the same on land as they are underwater. You've got the male who will defend it and fight for the territory, and then the females that will tag along with the male. There is, yeah, a lot of, I suppose a lot of ecological similarities. Not so much biological, but ecological. For anyone who doesn't know the difference, biological is more of your functionings, your tissues and your organs and everything like that. Whereas, I forgot where I was going with this. Yeah, whereas ecology is the study of where things are, how many of them, where are they moving, how are they interacting with one another. So that's just a bit of a basic explanation of the difference between the two. We have, is this a gray horn? No. Let me wait until I can see its bill. Hornbill. Slow-billed hornbill. And is that, I think it might be near its nesting hole. That hole, it did have something in its mouth, and we saw it put its beak in that hole in the tree. So when they are mating, or well, when they have mated, the female will stay in a hole in the tree, and the male will feed her. Sorry.
Your mark's slipping back.
Oh, is it?
It's gone all mucky.
Sorry everyone, let me just fix up my microphone, it's just slipped back. Alright, hopefully that's better. I do apologise to everyone. Yeah, sorry about that. So, back to the hornbills. So yes, so the male will feed the female through a hole, which I believe could have been what happened here. I'll just creep forward a little bit and see if I can see anything. So it's definitely a hole. So we can see right in the middle there's a hole in that tree, which is the one that the hornbill was looking in. It's hard to see inside of it, but if it wasn't its mate, then it was probably searching for something else living inside the tree. A nice snack. Moving on. That sunrise, should I say, it's starting to look really nice. How beautiful. About it, but geez, this place feels alive now that there's so much green around. It's great. I did experience my first proper Juma storm the other day, and it was epic. Lightning everywhere, hammering rain, thunder shaking the windows. It's really cool experience. I do love myself a good storm, and geez, it can storm here as well as in the Mara as well. Both places get big rain. Speaking of the Mara, I believe we have one of my good colleagues, Tristan, stationed over there. So why don't we jump across to Trist and say good morning.
Well, yes, good morning everybody, and as you can see, it is, well, a eerily beautiful morning in the Masai Mara at the moment. There's a little bit of a mist layer that has come down after some heavy rain that we received yesterday. We had lightning, we had thunder, we had hail, we had rain. Well, we had it pretty much all last night, and so it's going to be a very slippery start to our day, but a beautiful one. Like I said, there's going to be a bit of cloud cover, a bit of mist, which is always fantastic to try and go and find some animals. As Pat mentioned, my name's Tristan. On camera I've got Archie once again this morning, and it is, like I say, a very warm welcome to Kenya. Hopefully, like I say, we're going to have a good morning, and hopefully you guys will enjoy the morning with us. Remember that you can ask lots of questions. Hashtag SafariLive on Twitter or at FC on the YouTube chat, and remember to keep everything relevant, and we'll try and answer as much as possible. Now, this morning what we're going to do is we're going to descend this hill, we're going to take a right, and we're going to head through that forest, basically along that little section over there, and we're going to head off down southwards, down towards an area called Baghdad Pan. Now, it's a long way away, but we are going to try and rush down that way, and the reason why is because there's been a cheetah being seen there every day kind of over the last sort of week that has got, and there's mixed reports, 3 cubs and 2 cubs. I have a funny feeling that it might be Naserian and her 2 sub-adult boys, or 2 sub-adults that she's got, because when I asked, our staff went on a game drive the other day as part of a kind of Christmas party, and so a lot of the junior staff that have never ever been, that live here, have never ever been into the park, and so they got to the opportunity to go on a full guided game drive, which is wonderful. I'm so glad that they did. But they went and they said they saw these 3 cheetah, and they said that there was 2, they're all very similar size, so I can only think that it must be Naserian. But anyway, we're going to go try and see if we can find her, see what's happening down that side of the world. So we're going to kind of go down. We'll also just quickly check on the Olololos to see what they're up to down below here. They might still be on their buffalo. I know yesterday when David went, it was just the Kichwa boy that was there, but you never know, maybe they've returned in the night. Either way, it should be spectacular. We should get mist, we should get pretty much everything that we kind of want in terms of beauty out of the Mara, which is, I suppose, par for the course here. It's always beautiful. Every day that you come down this hill, it's pretty spectacular and breathtaking. It's quite something, because you kind of go along through a little forest and you come up the road, and then you get to this little area where the boom is. And as you come over this boom, there's just this vista that kind of takes your breath away as it drops down into this valley. And then when you get mornings like this, you'll have the mist kind of low down, you've got big fluffy clouds. It is seriously spectacular, and every morning is different when you come over that hill. Some mornings you get the most ridiculous colors in the sky that are oranges and purples and yellows, and then other days you get this more kind of eerie gray feel to everything, where there's this kind of little low mist that hangs around between all of the trees, and so you'll get, you know, this kind of, it's an odd feel. You get these little treetops just kind of sticking out, and you can't really see what's going on so well. But it's great for when you have animals in it, because there's something about when, you know, lions walk out of mist like that towards you. It's just kind of a lot more creepy in many respects, but it's awesome at the same time. So hopefully we'll have that this morning. That's the kind of plan for the day. Is to try and kind of see if we can find something coming out of mist, and then to find cheetahs. I believe a lot of you are very excited about the fact that we're going to go look for some cheetahs. Yes, well, hopefully. You know, sometimes these things don't work out, and the Mara has a very interesting way of delaying you all the time, because despite what kind of a lot of people think about the Mara, and that, you know, there's not the same intimacy as maybe what Djuma's got, the Mara's got so many little things that once you just stop and you actually start appreciating more than just the lions and the rest that are out here, you can start to notice some amazing little things. And it's one of the best parts about being live here, after not being live earlier in the year, is that there's so many little things that we can stop and talk about and look at, from birds to the ecosystem to all the inhabitants that are here, and it's actually a far more diverse place than it gets credit for. Everybody always thinks about it as the migration and wildebeest and obviously a lot of predators, but there's so much more to what goes on here than just that, and I thoroughly enjoy just kind of ambling along and seeing whatever kind of comes across our way and enjoying that, rather than kind of rushing around trying to find certain things. Anyway, while we kind of move off, and oh, there's a hyena, hold on, sorry Louise, I was supposed to send you off to Pat but with the kingfisher, but there's a hyena that's standing on my right hand side, so we're just going to quickly have a little look. There it is at the little mound there. Hello, you're very muddy. What have you been doing? I suppose with all the water that's fallen, there's mud wallows everywhere, and a hyena loves nothing more than to plonk its bottom in a muddy kind of hole. So you'll find that they're going to often do this after rain. Even down in Djuma you see it regularly, where they'll find some little area, particularly next to a road or on the roads, where there's a little furrow and it's filled with water, and then they go and they kind of lie in it. And I don't know what it's looking at the moment. It's almost as in the naughty corner. It's as though the rest of the clan has kind of banished it to the naughty mound, where it's been told that it must now sit and stare at the mound until such time as it's thought about its actions, and then it can go and join the rest of them. But it's kind of just standing there looking very forlorn at the fact that it's all by itself. And I don't know why it would be just kind of at the base of that mound. Obviously out here hyenas do use mounds as a den site, but that's not a den, that's just one that's kind of looking around. I would imagine it must have come from the buffalo that were killed, because they're to the left of that, so somewhere where Archie's pointing now, somewhere in that direction is where those buffalo are dead, and so maybe it's come from that area, and now it's just kind of sitting around and having a little look. But it is very, very funny the way it's just kind of standing there as if to say, can somebody come and find me? I don't want to be all by myself. Oh, there we go. It's waddled off now behind the mound, so we'll carry on as well. I can see some topi that are down below here too, which is nice. Right, now it's not just myself, it's not just Pat, there is also, well, Mr. Wilderness himself, Leo Smith, that is out and about, and so he wants to say hello, so let's send you across to him.
Good morning, and welcome on this absolutely gorgeous morning here in the Sabi Sand, South Africa. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Jean-Dre on camera. We apologize about our tardiness this morning. We were arguing with some technical difficulties, but we are out and about, and I have just got the report of puppies. Unfortunately, they crossed back into the west, but as we know with dogs, they can jump backwards and forwards, so I'm heading into that direction to see if they possibly don't come back onto Djuma. Remember, hashtag SafariLive on Twitter if you would like to send any questions in, or you can, of course, pop your questions into the YouTube feed. It is beautiful this morning, absolutely stunning, and a lovely morning to be out and about in the African bush. And I'm hoping that we find these dogs. Oh, I forgot to say, my friend Jean-Dre is on camera with me today. Or did I say that? I did. Okay, so Jean-Dre says hello again. I've just got so distracted and excited by even the remotest possibility of the African wild dog, Lichen pictus, the painted wolf, my favorite creature that roams the savannas of Africa. I do love all the other ones, but I do love wild dogs especially. MDR says fingers crossed for wild dogs. Yes, thank you so much, MDR. I mean, yesterday I didn't even have to go on drive to see Hosanna. He came to visit me, and we could see him from the deck at Inga's. Now, I do apologize, our game drive comms are going to be open today. I couldn't get them closed, and we were in a rush to get out, to get on safari. Now, there were also male leopard tracks in this general vicinity. There's a female, that's Shidulu, and quite fresh. Well, let's just have a closer look. It's always difficult on this wetter stuff. It's not actually that fresh. It's not as fresh as I'd hoped. Oh no, actually I take that back. This is fresh. Shidulu tracks, yeah. So very, very big feet for a female leopard. And she's heading sort of towards the west, so that's the area where the wild dogs disappeared. So I'm going to go down to Impala Plains, then head back onto Triple M and make my way back towards the west. Maybe we'll catch Shidulu before she crosses. Bouncy, bouncy. Rex, there's tracks of a Wansachi Ingwe heading west from Impala Road, probably 500 meters west of the junction with Impala Plains. They look very, very fresh. I'm saying Rexon, no, Rexon's out in this area.
We'll investigate, let you know. Normally these tracks are attached. They might come if they head north towards the gate.
There's Rex saying the dogs might head north towards the gate, so we're going to loop around, check the boundary road, see if Shidulu's crossed, and then see if the dogs also come back towards us. Now, speaking of Shidulu, now people think she's probably got cubs at the moment. That hasn't been 100% confirmed. She's been inspecting a very likely den site and hanging around in the area just to the west of us for about 10 days now. So there's thought that it's possible she might have little ones, and we're just going to have to wait to find out. Now, I wish I could claim the phrase. I'm not sure, I think whether it was James or Jamie who claimed it, but if Shidulu has cubs, the most likely father is Hukamuri, so I think it was a Hukadulu. Oh, hey! Hello, Gay. Good, good. Those Nkonzo, oh, there's some niece there, but from that little pan, they're very fresh. He's just had a drink coming this way, so I'll check. Cheers, guys. And there's a hyena. Let's get a bit closer. Now, that hyena could be looking for Shidulu, or it could be tracking the wild dogs. Hyenas will often follow wild dogs, knowing that there's a good chance of getting some scraps. Now, you can see the wild dog tracks quite clearly here. Let's go for... wait, there, that one. Where's the one we can see the nice? Well, there, that one. You can see the two claws, far more forward facing than a hyena, and the track itself is far more elongated. Okay, now we've got some good prospects here. We've the prospect of Shidulu, the prospect of dogs. So I'm going to keep working this area with Rexon. While I do that, let's send you back to Mr. Tristan, who's all the way back in the Masai Mara with an Ellie.
Good luck, Brenty. Hopefully you'll find the dogs and Shidulu all together. Maybe that would be quite nice, wouldn't it? If all of them were kind of in the same place, as long as Shidulu was high up in a tree, that would be probably a better situation. We wouldn't want her to be attacked by dogs, particularly if she's got suckle marks. It's going to be interesting to see where that den is and how kind of old those little cubs are already. I mean, there's been lots of reports of her looking for dens and all kinds of things, so we'll just have to wait and see who's the first one to kind of get a view of them and how many and all of those kind of things. Anyway, we're with Ellie's. As per norm, when you come down the hill, is that there's an elephant herd inevitably somewhere close by. Generally, you find that they're a little bit kind of north of where we are. I often see them around a little marsh section just as you come down the hill on the left side, and then other times it's always sort of down a little bit further towards the bridge that we're going to cross a little bit later. But it's always so nice to kind of start your morning as you come down, and there's these gentle giants that are peacefully feeding around these kind of forested areas, and particularly when you get a morning like this where there's a little bit of mist in the background, it makes for a really beautiful kind of scene. And to be able to spend time with Ellie's in this kind of environment is always so spectacular. Now, you will also notice with these guys is what they look like is they are very, very dark in coloration, much darker than what you would think, and that's just because of how wet it is with all the rain that we've had. And these guys have been absolutely kind of pelted with rain, and so they are soaked from sort of top of their heads all the way down to their feet, and so it's not actually mud, it's just the skin gets much darker when there's a lot of rain around, and they take on this much darker coloration. And you'll see it if they go to Chitwa Dam and they swim there in Djuma. They also go very dark in color after a swim, and this is essentially they just got kind of drenched by rain, and hence why they're as dark as they are. And I always like it when Ellie's are like this because their skin is so dark, and then their tusks contrast because the tusks get invariably a lot whiter due to being kind of clean, so any bit of mud or dirt that was on them gets kind of washed off, which is quite cool. Mighty, so this is something that we've discussed quite a lot, and something that has been talked about as to whether elephants are scared of mice. Elephants are not scared of mice as in that it's that specific animal and they're terrified that a mouse is going to, kill them or something like that. What elephants are kind of nervous of is disruptions within the environment around them. And so anything that kind of runs or past them very quickly or something like that definitely gets their attention and definitely gives them sometimes a little bit of a fright. And so what you'll find is probably where this started is a mouse kind of ran past, and Ellie got a bit of a fright because the movement caught its eye, or it heard something and just saw a flash, and it probably then kind of was unsure and turned on and walked away. And so it's not so much that they're scared of a mouse as just the mouse, it's more that they're scared of the movement and the pace of that movement very close to them, and that they don't see it coming. So when an elephant, it's much like if you're walking in the bush and you kind of walking along and you just walk straight into an elephant, that kind of shock of it not seeing you, not hearing you, kind of will often make it turn and run or be aggressive or one of those kind of things. And so it's the same with a mouse. Potentially it's just that movement and that pace of the movement without the elephant actually see it coming that causes it to be a little bit kind of panicky and nervy and then move away a little bit. But essentially, no, they're not really scared of mice in that they don't really have anything to fear. The mouse is not going to kill it. And so they'll just kind of, often stop and their ears flare out if something runs across the road in front of them, whether it be a mouse, a scrub hare, tortoise even. I've seen elephants react to tortoises. So it's more that than the actual kind of particular animal that is moving around. But it's a common kind of thing that gets asked. It's quite an interesting sort of topic. There has been a lot of footage documented of Ellie's getting a little kind of nervous when a mouse is around, but they're not scared of them. It's probably not the right word. It's more that they're a little bit cautious of kind of what's going on, and because they can't see it coming, they get a little bit kind of nervy, and then you'll see changes in their behavior and their reactions. But it is a beautiful morning, isn't it? Look at that with the mist in the background. I think it's wonderful. The sun is really trying hard to come out at the moment. Just above that Ellie, sort of to the left, there's a bit of sunshine that is trying its level best to peek through the clouds, but I don't think it's going to have much chance, if I'm honest. There's a big bank of cloud that is pushing in from the south. You can see it actually just moving in the top of your frame. There's a sort of darker section, and if you watch that cut in that cloud, so that little light sort of cut, if you watch how fast that is moving, you'll see it's going to go over the elephant now, and then it's going to kind of go past the Ellie quite quickly. So you'll find that this low bank of cloud is going to come across, and it's going to unfortunately block out much of the light that the sun is trying to provide, unfortunately. Nice for us though, because it's going to be super gloomy out here, which is always cool. Right, now what I want to do is our Ellies are going to peacefully feed them away from us and give us their bottoms, which is not exactly what we want. So what I want to do is just quickly head to the lions and the buffalo. It's just here in front of me, where that little forest is. Right on the other side of that forest is where the lions were yesterday with their 2 buffalo kills. So I just want to quickly have a look there and see what's going on. Sorry, Cape Turtle Doves, out the way. Very noisy this morning. Franklins are shouting at us this morning. I suppose after a bit of rain, it's the perfect time to be noisy and to, you know, make a racket and attract mates and various other things. It's often see it with birds after a bit of a rain. They tend to be quite full of themselves and quite vocal in the morning. I suppose I wonder if it's something like with us when people shower, that it brings out their vocalness and people tend to sing in the shower. It's a weird thing, that, isn't it? It's quite random that people just decide, okay, now that I'm being drenched in water, I'm going to sing. Strange. I wonder what triggers us to do that. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. Louise, do you sing in the shower? Archie? No, I don't sing in the shower. Do you? No, if I sing in the shower, Archie, I'm going to break everything. I'm going to break mirrors and windows and those kind of things. No, singing is not my forte. I don't sing, unfortunately. Or rather, fortunately for the world's population, that I don't sing. But sorry, Lou, you do. Oh, really? Okay. So Louise says that she does sing, but she also plays music at the same time, and that she is a rock star in the shower. Do you play air guitar in the shower, Louise? Is that part of the rock star vibe? I'm not sure what a shower rock star does, actually, to be honest with you. So Louise says rockstar guitar, air guitar in the shower is far too dangerous, and that one should not attempt this because one can slip and fall and damage one's hip, a la Brent Leo Smith. Now Brent Leo Smith didn't slip in the shower and damage his hip, but still he's got a dodgy hip, and we make fun of him because he has one. And for those of you who don't know why he's got a dodgy hip, I'm pretty sure he will tell you. It's a story that we've all heard at least 10 times in our lives, and so I'm pretty sure you will hear it too now that we've brought it up. But the lions are just here. Sorry, Lou, I know we're taking a bit of time to get there, but it's just on top of this ridge. Now I've got to try and see where exactly, a little bit further. Let's see. They should be here somewhere. I don't see the buffalo anymore. They look as though they're gone and finished. Certainly no sign of lions that I can see either. I can see what looks like a rib cage. Yes, that's all that's left, is what looks like a little rib cage. So just on our left hand side is where there was 2 buffaloes, and that gives you an idea of how fast these guys can eat these things. Actually, no, wait, I think they're the lions. I can see them now. They're on the left of that. They're at the other buffalo. There we go. So there's 2 buffaloes. There's the one kind of buffalo that the lions are busy feeding on. I don't see any sign of the big male at the moment. So the Kichwa boy, the blonde male from the Kichwa Pride, or Kichwa Coalition, should I say, he doesn't seem to be around as yet. There's another one that's sort of coming through at the moment. You'll see it kind of walking, and the hyenas. There's the first carcass, so that's the carcass they were on yesterday, and they were feeding and eating, but that is now almost done. There's really very little left, and you'll see there's a few hyenas and another lion that's on its way towards those carcasses. So there's the lion there, hyena in the background, and they are full-bellied as you could ever imagine, and I'm not surprised if you had to eat an entire buffalo during the course of the night and then start your second one. You should look rather fat and full and rounded. It's, you know, it's a lot of meat to get through, really. So I'm happy that these lions are around. It's always nice to see lions kind of first thing in the morning, and few vultures as well, which is to be expected. These guys probably, though, will have to wait a little bit until such time as the lions move off. Now, it looks like hooded vultures, both of them. It's obviously just the silhouette and the shape of the beak that we're going on to try and kind of work out what they are. Good. We'll see if we can get maybe a better position, see if we can see them a little bit better while we do that, and reposition. Let's send you to Dodgy Hip Leo Smith and see what he's up to.
Yes, one cat to the next. We have found two Panthera leos, or lions, as we commonly refer to them as, this one being a mating pair, one Avoca male, and oh, I think we're going to get some, here we go. Oh, this is starting to look a lot more unenergetic. It's not even really biting him. It's more nibbling at the neck now. Or just resting his face there. Nope. That was very quick. There's not much left in the tank, hey boy. So these guys have been at it for about a week now, mating. I think it was about Wednesday last week, and we believe this is an Niconico female that he's mating with. It was so thrilled with that experience. She's decided to stay around. Well, not really, she's moving off now. Not impressed. Wow. This is great. I always love seeing a male lion. I see lots of lionesses, but not so many lions. Lou's just telling me that it looks like his feelings are hurt, and I think that might be the case. It looks like they are definitely on their last legs out here. So they will, usually it'll take about 8 seconds per copulation, and they can mate lots of times together. Sometimes they will not even feed. They'll be just full on mating the whole time, not worrying about food or anything else, just trying to reproduce. And then hopefully, if all goes well, 3 months later we'll have some little Niconico cubs. Well, potentially Niconico cubs, which would be nice. It's always good to see some lion cubs. So we have a question from Carol, and she wants to know how long a female lions will be on estrus for, and it's about 4 days and 16 either side of that. So there's a bit of a window of opportunity there. And once she has actually given birth, it will take about 2 years for her to go back in estrus, which is a bit rough, because if a male lion sees that it is not his young and he isn't happy about that a female has, he will actually commit infanticide. So that will force the female back onto estrus, because he doesn't want to wait 2 years, he wants to wait 2 weeks, which is the time that it will take if he does that. So it's a bit unfortunate for the females, but that is also why you'll see females so viciously defending their cubs, especially when there's a foreign male in their presence. Looking very worn out. That head just flopped down to the ground there. So there is another mating pair of lions in the area as well. It's been very noisy around camp these last few days. Every night we're hearing a lot of roaring, a lot of sound, a lot of action out of these lions, and I think it's really cool. It's kind of a comforting sound to hear at night, despite the animal it's coming from and the ferocity of it. I think it's quite a nice sound. Most of the bush sounds I find are very comforting. It's really nice going to sleep out here. hearing the sounds of nature, not cars, sirens, no light pollution. Good living. Good living. I really haven't seen a non-flat lion yet. The only real active lions I've seen thus far in the Mara and here have been little cubs playing about. You can really see the difference between an adult and a cub in terms of energy. They are just at it all day. You can tell the parents do not really find it that interesting. I suppose we're also like that with humans. Kids running around, getting all up in the parents' faces. Parents just want to rest. Well, it looks like the female has left, and this, oh no, I see it just, I don't think we're going to be able to see it with camera, but yeah, she's gone to rest away from the male, perhaps out of detest, perhaps because of the hot sun that is now poking through. Well, from these big hunters, let's go across to the Murra, where Tristan has found himself some scavengers.
Indeed, our lions are still feasting away, and it's very, very kind of civil, if I'm honest, around this little dinner table. As soon as one finishes, another one will get up and go and try and kind of go and get a little bit of a meal. Now, we did find the male. He is lying there. There he is. So he is in a state of recline, is probably a good way to put it. Much like Pat has said, the lions do spend a lot of time like this, but Pat is in for a treat when lions are actually going to be active for him, and he's going to see them doing some sort of interesting thing, because when they do hunt and when they are playful, they're a very cool cat to watch. So hopefully that will happen for him sooner rather than later. They, like I say, their power and their strength when they are hunting in big groups is quite something. So hopefully at some point he'll get to see the Nkuhuma Pride in action, if the Nkuhuma Pride all comes back together, which I hope that they will. At the end of the day, 15 lions is a lot of mouths to feed, if you include the boys that have been hanging on and latching on in the form of the Mangen and the Talamati. It makes a lot of kind of mouths to get food for, and so it's no wonder that they're kind of splitting at the moment. You see this regularly with prides within the Sabi Sands, not so much out here in the Mara, but in the Sabi Sands. As soon as a pride gets to a certain point, they unfortunately begin to start splitting, and it's probably the best pride to kind of see that, oh hey, you've got something to carry around. The best pride or example of that is probably the Salala Pride. So the Salala Pride essentially at one point had split off into 4 different groupings. So you had the original Salalas, then you had the tailless Salala female that had her had the 2 boys and the young female with her. So that was the Salala breakaways. Then you had the Mangens, which were offspring from the Salala Pride that split off with the original tailless female at one point, and then you had their offspring that split off to become the Mangan breakaways, which then was named the Nsevu or Kambula Pride. So there's kind of 4 splits from that pride already, which gives you an example of why they kind of do it. It's just the prides get too big and then they don't find enough food in order to sustain themselves, and so they start to kind of branch off and go on their own. Unlike the Mara, where, you know, Djuma has got a lot of, well, it has buffalo from time to time. Obviously we get points. There's 2 males here, so both the boys are here, which is nice. Both the Kichwa boys are in attendance. In Djuma you get buffalo herds that will roll through, but are not necessarily constant within a pride's territory. And then other than that, they've only got really things like kudu, impalas to be able to feed on. And whereas here in the Mara, you know, they've got a lot more kind of variety and choice in when it comes to food. They've got buffalo, a lot more buffalo, and pretty much every pride has got some buffalo within their territory. You've got a lot of zebra and wildebeest at a certain time of the year. There's topi. So they warthogs, they're spoilt in that regard because they've got a little bit more kind of food that they're able to kind of utilize, and therefore pride numbers can get quite big. Now, I was tagged in a post, so thank you, Lisa, for tagging me in a post about pride of lions that was seen not too far south of the triangle. That was 43, I think, pride of 43 lions together. So they do get quite big out this side of the world at times. And if you look at this pride, I mean, all pride, when these two boys are with them, is 18 lions, which is a lot when you think about it. Now we're going through our dad ceremony again. Everybody's coming to say hello. A little bit of grooming, a little bit of biting on the ears and playing. Very cute. It's one thing that's been really nice about the sort of two interactions that I've had, or three, should I say, of cubs and males since I've been in the Mara, is that they've been very kind of patient and relaxed and endearing with these little ones. I mean, if you look at the sausage tree pride we had the other day with the old Daniel Pike males, they were super kind of tolerant of the little ones jumping on their heads and pulling on their manes and their tails. And then you watched yesterday morning and this morning the way these guys kind of just rub up, and the male, and he's, again, hasn't really been aggressive towards them and kind of stamped his authority, which is so nice to see. It's always a kind of joyful thing when big male lions are tolerant of their offspring, because sometimes they can be a little grumpy. If you remember Tinyo, he used to get sometimes a little bit frustrated with the amount of kind of attention the cubs used to give him. He used to sort of show his teeth quite often, and obviously there's that one clip where, or bit of footage that we got, where the one little cub gets thrown off the buffalo and gets kind of put in its place quite quickly. Now, of course, these things probably do happen within these prides every now and then, but while there's such a bounty of food like this, I suppose everybody can be a little bit more relaxed. And I agree, Lou, as you said, that the Mara lions seem to be a lot more affectionate towards one another than the South African counterparts. The South African counterparts tend to get quite bleak with one another at times, and so they cause a little bit of trouble. Now I'm going to have to just move slightly just to let a car pass, because there's a car that wants to kind of come past us, so I'm just going to try and move a little bit so that it's easier for them. It's so wet here that if they move too much, they're going to end up slipping into the ditch, and if they slip into the ditch, well, they're going to have a tough time to get out again and to actually get themselves free of the mud and nonsense that is on the other side. It's always the thing about this particular road, is that you do not want to slide off the side, because it will take a long time to get out. So, Child of the Universe, it's obviously very dependent on numbers within the pride. So if there's 43 lions in a pride, yes, that could mean they could chase hyenas away from kills and things like that, or from an area. But that's only given that the 43 lions are made up of a number of adults, because even though you can have 43 lions, you might have, of those 43 lions, it might be 26 cubs, which are going to be very kind of defenseless when it comes to big clans of hyenas, and they're going to have a big problem. So what you would need is, you would need to have a number of adults. So if you've got probably even 20 adults together, there's not many hyenas that will challenge those guys, I can assure you that. It would have to be a numbers game. You'd have to, once again, if you had 43 lions, you'd probably need 120 hyenas together to be able to take them. But can you imagine that battle if you got that many in terms of numbers of animals in one place? Imagine having 43 lions and 100 odd hyenas fighting over a carcass. It would be quite something, and the noise from that would just be next level. So it depends, like I say, on how many adults there are, how many males. Those kind of things will dictate whether they can drive hyenas out of an area and kind of move them on. I suspect, though, where there's that many lions, is that hyenas, unless they are a massive clan, will probably in all likelihood try and kind of spend time in a different area to those lions. They'll try and kind of just move in opposite directions, unless, of course, like I say, it's a really massive clan. We saw it with Djuma. Djuma's a prime example, is when the Nkuhumas and the Birminghams were so kind of set at Djuma, we hardly saw hyenas, and that's probably due to the fact that the Djuma clan is quite small, and on top of that many lions kind of in the area all the time. Those hyenas is just too much competition, and they'd rather move away. Here in the Mara, a little bit of a different story, I suppose. A lot more space. big open clearings that the kind of everybody can see each other, so maybe they can live a little bit closer together than what you see in Djuma. Djuma seems to be, when the lions are around, hyenas, unless it's the really big clan like the Elephant Plains clan, they typically don't really kind of sort of, you know, integrate. They try and kind of move away from one another. Right, I think we're going to carry on. We're going to head off. It's as beautiful as it is. The lines are very far away, and there's going to be a number of cars that are going to build up as the gate starts to open. And so while we head off down south and look for spots, let's send you across to Brent to see how he's doing with his wild dog search and spots search this morning.
Dogs to the west of me, dogs to the north of me, and here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, unfortunately the dogs didn't come back, and another pack of dogs has been seen in the north, but quite far north of our boundary, and Hukamuri also went west. So, back to the drawing board for us. I'm gonna go maybe check around for Hosanna, and I think we'll go past Treehouse, down, back down towards the Moati, around the Moati, then maybe further to the east. Maybe we'll go to Chitwa, see if there's anything happening there. So that is the story so far. It's just building the anticipation. Still an absolutely gorgeous morning out here, and I think while we search for any tracks or any sign of something to follow, I think we shall do some bird watching. Child of the Universe wants to know what I'm going to miss most about SafariLive, and it is almost certainly going to be the people. And a lot of us have been together at SafariLive for a very long time, close on 4 years, a lot of us all together, the same quite tight little crew. So I think probably the people, and of course the animals. But it'll be exciting because I'll be getting to see different animals all over Africa. What are you staring at, Impalala? Nothing. Just staring into space for the sake of it. He is disappearing down the road. Now, let's just stop for a second. Use our ears. Nope, no alarm calls. We will continue on. Let's see what birds we can find while we search for sign of big cats. So, this is where Hukamuri came in. So these are from early last night. So we've followed those tracks to their fruition. Let me see if I can find you a track that how we know it's Hukamuri and not Tingana. Oh, there's lion tracks here. Oh, these are from yesterday. There's lion tracks here as well. Where's the hook track now? Okay. No, they're not clear enough. I'll keep checking to see. So Hukamuri's got an injury on his back right foot. So what means is he's got one claw that's not fully retractable, and you can just see it's like a little pinky claw that sticks out on Hukamuri's tracks. Interesting, this is the second sort of expedition he's taken quite deep into Djuma in the last little while. There he is, his tracks. There his tracks are here. I'm just trying to find you a nice track quickly of that claw. Let's have a look on this corner here. Of course, now he walks on the hard stuff. Okay, I'll keep checking for a decent, clear Hukumuri back right foot track. While I do that, let's send you back. Oh wait, no, I'm lying. I've found a decent track of Hukumuri's back foot. Let's have a look. There we go, back right. Okay. Let's have a look. There we go. Oh, it's a bit difficult on that one. You can just make it out. It just sticks a little bit more on that back right pinky toe. Shame. Poor Hook, with his funny feet and his long tongue and his silly face, but he is a beautiful cat. In the meantime, let's send you back to Patrick with the Avoca.
Welcome back. So, since we have last been with you, we have had one more mating instance between this male Avoca and female, we think, in Kahuma. So it is quite, I mean, it's not surprising to see them mating at this time of the year. Oh, are we going to go again? Yes, we are. So this is 3 times now in the last probably 10 minutes, I would say, since we've been with them. And James and I were just discussing this in between segments. The lion's bite on the back of the neck during mating is actually a lot more gentle than the leopard's, because the female leopard will turn around and swipe at the male afterwards, so they have to be a little bit more forceful. And of course it's obviously not the most pleasant experience for the female, as the males do have a barb tip at the end of their penis, which we actually see in a lot of felines, and I think that would probably be why the female would get so defensive and aggressive over it, because it can't be too pleasant for her at all. Yeah, as I was saying, it is good to see them mating because they do have a peak breeding season coming up, and in about 2 months or so, which is just about the time it's going to take for this one to give birth. A little bit longer than that, but it's nice to see. Speaking of mating, this guy I have here who's landed on me actually goes through a very different plight than mating lions. So you can see here I do have a grasshopper, and I believe James informed you of this the other night. So praying mantis. Oh, that was a complete brain pop. Oh. So this praying mantis, will be devoured by a female during mating, pretty much. But the really interesting thing is, even without its head and the middle portion of its body, it will still mate. It will still do the motion of mating. And even if you were to pick up that piece of body and move it across, you can still see it going back and proceeding with the mating, which is absolutely fascinating. So let's leave this insect and head back to the Mara and see what Tristan is up to.
Well, yes, hopefully from an insect to something that would probably like to eat an insect. You can see the scaly legs and beautiful feathers as we go upwards to a black-bellied bustard that is looking rather cold at this stage. It's got its kind of head tucked into its body as though it doesn't have a neck at all. But I can assure you that this bird does have a neck. They have a very long neck, actually, and it showed us its beautiful neck just now when it started calling. And they have a very, very cool call. It's obviously a call that we can hear in Djuma, and we do see these guys in Djuma. Wait, let's see. Is it going to do it? Come on. Lift your neck up and call for us. Isn't that a funny looking bird when it's got its head tucked in like that? I think so. I think it's classic. They're kind of all sort of cold and they're sort of huddled up and they've got their head down and they've kind of pushed their feathers out, just trying to make sure that they stay warm in these cool, wet conditions that we've had in the Mara. But a really kind of interesting looking animal. You've got quite a big beak, so these guys will go after fairly large insects as they comb through the grasses. They spend most of their time walking around, so you can see very, very powerfully built legs, long, big legs that allows them to kind of walk along. They do have a rather large body with big wings, and that's basically for them to be able to fly, but they don't fly very well. They've got a very cumbersome flight when they go, but what they do have, which is really cool, is the way that they kind of land. So as they fly along, then they'll just sort of drop out the sky, and at the last second they just sort of open out those wings and almost looks like a little parachute kind of coming down and then softly landing. It's a very cool way that they do things. Now I'm hoping that it's going to call for us. It did just before we kind of went live. It let out a little normal call that these guys have, which is cool. It's a little kind of popping call that they've got, and you hear it a lot, like I say, now, particularly in this time of the year. Wait, let's see now. Let's see, it's lifting its... There we go. So you can see that it's doing its little call. Isn't that cool? It's a very cool call that it's got now. And if you're hearing coughing, our poor Scary in the back seems to be struggling a little bit. There's lots of little insects, and maybe a little insect went down her mouth or something like that. And so to excuse the coughing sound that you may have heard in the background. Now, I wonder if this little guy was kind of sort of huddling up the way that it is because of the fact that there's so many of these little biting insects. We call them biting insects, but they're not actually biting. They're spraying formic acid everywhere, and there's lots and lots and lots of them. If you actually look at my face at the moment, here you'll see them flying around all over the place. So these guys are the ones that spray formic acid all over you, and it burns like you cannot imagine. So you can see Archie showing you there a whole bunch of them that are kind of littered all over the place, and if they go into your mouth, it's a very unpleasant experience. So what we're going to do is, we've got a very cool view of this bird. We're going to carry on just to try and kind of flush these guys out a little bit, because otherwise they're a bit of a pain in the backside and they cause all kinds of havoc and burning sensation all over you. If you have a look at my neck, probably you'll see that my neck looks as though it's been hammered by a whole bunch of pins that have been stuck into it. So I've got little bumps all over it from a few days ago when these guys thoroughly got hold of me, and a whole bunch of them actually got stuck inside my jacket and have caused quite a bit of damage, is probably the right word for this, all the way down my chest and on my back and everywhere. So I look as though I'm a pin cushion at this stage. I've got little kind of red things all over the place, but anyway. Dash, I'm not sure, no. It's a shame, she's battling in the back there, but hopefully now that we're driving a little bit, they'll all kind of flush out and our Scary will be okay. It'll be quite interesting if she did swallow one, because it will be acid versus acid. Formic acid being sprayed and stomach acid digesting, so it's going to be a battle of the acids. I have a funny feeling though that the stomach acid is going to win that war, and that little insect is not going to survive very long once it gets down there, but it might cause a bit of an irritation on the way down. Exactly. It's not going to be very pleasant on the way down, but anyway, she seems to be okay. She's not coughing anymore, so all is good. As you can see, it's getting mistier and mistier as we go, which is wonderful. I like the mist. There's something about it. Carol, you say get some elephant dung burning. Well, I don't think any elephant dung that we tried to light right now would burn, given that most of it is as soggy as you could ever imagine. With the amount of rain we had last night, I doubt that there's going to be a dry piece of elephant dung in this entire reserve that will actually burn properly. Although elephant dung, funnily enough, actually does quite well. Even in wet conditions, you can still get it sometimes to kind of smoke and smolder, which is exactly what you really want. Now, this is quite cool, because obviously when I first got here, I was saying that it's quite dry, and do they remember James, I think it was, you were asking what the major differences have been since I've been in the Mara compared to last time, and I said how dry it was. Now, a few days ago, I don't know, maybe about a week ago now, we had a sighting of 2 male lions and hyenas with a buffalo carcass in a lugger. This is that very same lugger. You can actually see the buffalo carcass there. It's kind of half drowned now by water, whereas when we saw those 2 male lions and we saw all the hyenas here, this was pretty much dry. There was mud, but there wasn't too much water or standing water that was there, whereas you can see now, after the rains that we've had, that it's filled that up quite a bit, and that's all that's left of the carcass. What happened was quite interesting, is that the boys abandoned it. I think they had a run-in with that Kichwa male, and that's why he had a few bite marks on him, and they abandoned this, and then the rains came and it filled up and no one could actually get to it. The hyenas would patrol up and down, and when the water kind of subsided, it had rolled the carcass over, and the side that still had meat on it was exposed. And then since then, it seems as though 1 or 2 animals has fed and kind of broken off the hip area. But that gives you an idea of kind of how much water has fallen in the last couple of days. It's a lot wetter than it was a week ago, should we say. Right, now we need something epic to come out of this mist. What do we want? A leopard in a tree. That's what we want. Come on, kitty, up in a tree. That would be quite something. Imagine if we got the the shepherd's tree male up in one of these trees. I would be very, very happy. One of these balanites would be perfect. Right, now we left our lions. We're going southwards in search of spots. While we do that though, let's send you back to Pat, who's still got his lions.
They remain here for sure. We are looking at the male right now. That majestic mane starting to really come through for him. So he's relatively young lion, probably about 4.5 to 5 years old. So not sure whether this is his actual first mating event, but definitely would have only started this year. So this may be his first time, but may have also mated with one of the other 2 prides that they are dominant over earlier on in the year. But either way, it's still something that is pretty new to him. We think, we're having a little bit of a discussion, and we think that this may be coming into the peak estrus for the female. So we did discuss that earlier, that between 16 days and then 4 days, and then 16 days is for the estrus. So there's kind of 16 days either time. And if there is no copulation after that, then she'll come into estrus again. And these guys for the last week have been pretty inactive. So there has been a few instances of mating, but generally it's been pretty placid. So perhaps we have, getting a lot there. This morning we have seen 3 mating events in relatively quick succession. So potentially now it could be coming into that 4 days of peak estrus, with activity picking up. And I suppose the only way we are going to know that is just watching them over the next few days and seeing what they do. Females seem to have disappeared, probably moved off to where she was laying before. I can't see her anywhere. It's amazing that there was a 19-year-old lion that was able to mate. That is very old. And it was in the Kalahari Desert. Yeah, Kalahari. Unreal. Caroline, so the question was whether the male or female will kind of end this mating period, and it will be the female that says enough is enough. So once she's done, then that's the end of it. But for now it looks like she's still into it. So this was the 4th time this morning. Can we hear that rumble that the male makes during copulation? It's very deep, real kind of guttural, low growl, and it's done. Sorry, I just probably spoke over that. That's my bad. I do apologise, everyone, but I hope you did hear at least a little bit. And the female characteristically rolling onto her belly afterwards, which is very commonly seen, almost always seen. And back to back, all done. Very quick process, it's surprisingly quick. I honestly didn't expect it to be over that quickly in lions until I started doing my research. And now actually witnessing it, it's even quicker than what I thought it was going to be, even though I thought it was going to be quick. So, it's a pretty cool thing to see mating lions for the first time out here in Juma. Carol, sorry, what was the good question? I heard mating period at the end. So the likelihood, Carol, that this female will fall pregnant is probably about 60% chance. And as I said, if that doesn't happen, she will come into another estrus. But yeah, that's pretty high success rate for copulation. And then she will, in the Kruger, it is on average, she'll have about 3 babies, or 3.1 to be specific, but we all know that is impossible, and that is just data that has been averaged. But they can have up to 6, well, there has been a recording of 6 in a litter, so that is quite a large effort for a lioness. Well, we'll stay with these lions and see if they're going to do any more mating, and let's cross over to Brenda and see what he's up to. I say that hesitantly.
Oh, Patricia, dangerous talk. I think there will be some torture in your future, Patricia. And I just got a report from Jamie. He's out with Jackie, Trishala and Oli that there's a lion on cheetah cut line, so I'm rushing towards that direction. Oh, whoop, there we go. So it seems like lions all over the place at the moment. Jamie said the lioness was contact calling, so maybe looking for the rest of the pride, so we're going to rush to that spot. I'm not exactly sure, I think it's quite far down Cheetah Cut Line, sort of towards the Buffalo's Hook boundary. Of course, if she's contact calling, there's a chance that the other lions might be around here somewhere, so just keeping our head on a swivel while we're maneuvering. So far all I've seen is the old squirrel dashing away. Mikey is wondering if we do have seatbelts. Mikey, I'm not even going fast yet. I'm only driving to a lion. If I was driving to wild dogs, then you would see fast. And no, Mikey, we do not have seatbelts. But, well, it depends on your definition of fast. So on a game drive, really fast is about 40 kilometers an hour. So I don't even think we're doing that. I think we're probably doing about 30 at the moment. Also, this is a nice, smooth, straight road, so we don't have to worry as much about bumpities. Now, of course, these big bumps that I hop over, from time to time, are what we would call, they're called mitre drains. They're actually there to protect the road from the rain. So what happens is if you don't have these big bumps, the rain will just come all the way down the road and erode the road away. So there's big drains that go off on those humps to send the water. Oh dear. Did it survive? That is the question. Did it hit the camera lens? I don't know if you guys saw that. There's a large dung beetle that thudded into the camera. I can't find it. Oh, there we go. Did he survive? Oh, we drove past Jamie because we're looking for the dung beetle. Unfortunately, oh no, he's moving. Well done. Go find dung. Oh, do you guys want to see something funny? So it happens. What? Ah, yes, I see her. I'm just turning. We will embarrass the others a little bit later. Let us go look at the lioness quickly. Thank you. Oh, who could it be? Who could it be? There's blood on her feet. It looks like amber. Looks like amber eyes of the Nkuhumas. And it looks like she's picked up an injury or she's been fighting. You can see there's a bit of blood on her front right foot.
Are you saying there was another 20 on top of me?
Not limping too much, so it might be someone else's blood, which is not uncommon with lions. Okay. Let's try keep up with that. Now, she's looking a little bit stressed, so I'm going to just keep parallel to her. And hopefully she does lead us to the rest of the pride. Now this is the exact same spot where I saw the Talamatis 2 days ago. So I wonder if there's been an altercation between the Talamatis and the Nkuhumas. But let's send you back to the Mara, to Tristan and elephants, while I concentrate on getting through the bush.
Well, hopefully she'll lead you to what's going on and be able to decode the mystery of the bloody paws. But we stopped with our Ellies, one, because it's just scenically beautiful with this kind of mist that's coming through and the Ellies ghosting along. But two, because there's probably one of the biggest females in terms of tusks that you're going to ever see. Now, that individual over there has got monstrous tusks for any elephant, really. It is a beautiful, beautiful individual. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? And we don't see Ellies like that very often, particularly not down in Djuma. Not a female, that's for sure. She's got tusks that would rival many of the males. In many respects, she's huge, and you can see she's kind of leading the way. The rest of the herd is kind of feeding about and milling around. There's a few little babies in amongst them, but isn't that interesting? It's quite intriguing kind of conditions to see Ellies in, a thick mist layer. You can see the sun trying valiantly in the background to kind of peek through. That's up against the escarpment there, and there's the tiny little baby right in the middle. Hello, little one. Oh, very little. Is it missing its tail? It is too. Look at that. It's got no tail. I wonder what's happened to that poor little Ellie. I wonder if maybe hyenas or lions tried to grab it when it was small, because that's often what happens when animals are missing tails. But I can honestly say I have never seen an elephant with a tail completely gone. That would be a first for me. There is no tail whatsoever there. It's not even a stump, nothing. It's completely missing, and I wonder if maybe it was even not born with a tail, because it doesn't look like too much scarring there. Come on, all you other ellies, move out the way. I want to see its bottom. Now, of course, it would stop right where we need to see. So it doesn't look like there is a tail or scarring, is there? There, now, it doesn't look like, I say, there's any scarring. It just looks as though there's no tail that ever formed, which is really weird. I don't think that tail's been pulled off by anything. Now, there are a lot of animals out in the Mara that do miss tails, and it's generally, like I say, because of the high hyena population, they get pulled off. But if you look at that, you know, obviously, it doesn't look like there was ever a tail that formed there. That's really interesting. Like I say, I have never seen an ellie without a tail at all. There's no scarring around there. There's nothing that would indicate that there was a tail prior to this point. Now, sorry Lou, you're going to have to repeat that. My earpiece went funny. No, I mean, they don't really need a tail. I suppose, you know, ellies in many respects, the tail will help at swatting flies, particularly from sensitive areas like the genitals and you know, their rear ends, but it's not 100% necessary. I mean, I don't think it does that much of a job that little one won't survive from it. I think it would still definitely survive, but it's definitely going to have, you know, an irritation factor that the others won't have to deal with. So, you know, it's going to have constantly to kind of keep that tail moving, or I mean, it wouldn't have the ability to have the tail moving to keep away little flies and things like that. So it's going to probably have an irritated sort of area back there with lots of insects gathering. But essentially, no, it's not going to really do anything in terms of its actual overall health. It should be perfectly fine to survive. The only thing is that it's going to be interesting because its displays to others will have to be that much more kind of obvious. So it's going to have to use its ears and its kind of head a lot more, because when elephants often are frustrated or if they are scared or something like that, the tail is a good sign as to their emotion, because they'll kind of stick that tail straight out, whereas, you know, this one's not going to have that ability to do it. But it's going to be an intriguing kind of lifestyle, that's for sure. But it doesn't look like anything even formed there. It's amazing. I wonder if it's a little defect, a birth defect, that it doesn't have a tail. Because normally if you get any ellie or any animal that loses a tail to a predator, there's normally a little stump, or there's scarring, or there's some sort of sign that, you know, this tail was taken off, whereas that didn't look like it at all. Granted, it was quite far away when we first noticed, but it doesn't look as though there's any sort of damage that has been done anywhere there. There was no, as far as I could see. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe on your screens that are much bigger than what I'm looking at, you notice some scarring, but I didn't see anything, if I'm honest, which is quite intriguing to me. A little birth defect, maybe? Interesting. Anyway, little one should be fine. But this female just is absolutely incredible. Those tusks are seriously big. She must be one of the biggest tuskers I've seen out in this part of the world. In terms of females, you can see the one tusk slightly sort of higher up than the other and slightly longer, but you can also see that these guys very seldom will have the little notch that we see in many of the Kruger elephants. So if you go into the South African kind of areas, well, particularly Kruger, you'll find lots and lots and lots of the elephants there have that little notch in the tusk, which is where they use, you know, they use it to be able to strip vegetation and lift up roots and those kind of things. And because the ellies here mostly are grass feeders, their notches on their tusks are not nearly as developed. It looks like her right one might have a small little notch in it, but it's nothing like what we see from the Kruger ellies. The Kruger ellies always have got that kind of little ridge, as they use their tusks so much more for food availability than what these guys do. These guys are more using it, you know, to be able to defend oneself and those kind of things. They're not really using it as much in a feeding process as what we see from down south, which is quite interesting. Right, I'm just going to go forward a little bit because the kind of herd has drifted beyond us, so I want to try and just get forward and then turn back towards them so we can see see them a little better. Let's see, from somewhere here should be better. Then we can see their faces rather than their backsides. It'll give Arch a better view of what's going on. There we go. There's also tracks for big male lions walking around here too, so that's quite interesting. Just want to have a look. They look a bit washed out, so maybe from yesterday sometime or during the rain. Michael, you say you see a lot of elephants without tails. Well, I'm not sure that we do. I haven't seen many without tails, to be honest. I mean, maybe they are. It's just I've been ignorant to that fact and haven't seen them. But I certainly haven't noticed a huge population of elephants without tails here. Shortened tails that have possibly are to do with predation and those kind of things. But I've never seen a lot that just have completely no tail at all. So I don't think there's a genetic kind of adaptation here or a sort of evolution process that's taking place like you see with some of the elephants losing tusks in the sort of Zambezi Valley and places like that, where it's thought that a lot of the elephants are not growing tusks as almost a defensive trait. Well, not a defensive trait, but a kind of selection trait, because they're not the ones that will get hunted out, given that they don't have tusks. And so there's that kind of school of thought. Now, I doubt that that's the case with Ellies here and not having tails. I can't see the function of not having a tail. I don't think it's something that an elephant would want, or it would be beneficial to their lifestyle. I mean, there is a reason that they've got tails, or that most animals have tails, and that's generally to control insects around sensitive areas in a lot of respects, and also to be able to communicate a lot. So the lack of a tail is probably not the best thing, and so I would be very surprised if genetically that's why these animals don't have tails, is that they are using it for some sort of purpose. I would find it quite odd, if I'm honest with you. So I'm not sure if that's the case. I mean, it's an interesting kind of school of thought. I don't know how many elephants have we seen without tails. Have we seen a lot that have completely sheared off tails that don't look like they ever existed? I mean, I don't know. How many have we ever put on camera? Not sure. Certainly a first for me, because I haven't noticed them while I've been out here driving around it. Like I said, I've seen a lot with stumpy little bits and kind of varying lengths. Now, I know we've seen a few animals in general in the Mara with no tails, but I mean, things like zebras and wildebeest and giraffe, 90% and 99% of that is going to be, like I say, them trying to be preyed on early in their lives by things like hyena and lions, and the tail gets pulled off in many respects, which is not very pleasant. Buffalo as well, we see that a lot. But elephants, have we seen a lot, Lou? I don't recall seeing many without. Like I say, we're not talking about just a little stump. We're talking about nothing at all. So, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are a lot more and I'm just being ignorant and haven't been watching and paying enough attention. But certainly hasn't stood out as something that I've noticed through many of the herds. Well, that one's about to go to the toilet. Are you going to go to the toilet? You look like you're going to go to the toilet. Maybe just a false alarm. Yes, false alarm. So, Nico viewer, why an elephant a female would need such long tusks? Don't really know. Really, it's not like she needs them hugely to impress males or anything like that. A male's going to find a female nistress and mate with her regardless of her tusk size. It could just be that genetically in these areas, due to diet and terrain and those kind of things, tusks just grow larger, and there's no reason for them to have massive tusks. It's just that there's nothing that really is wearing them down nearly as much as what we're seeing in parts of South Africa. So they just get that long because they continually grow throughout their life. But what the advantage of that would be for a female, I don't think there is much advantage, to be honest with you. You see out here that there's many females with short tusks, many females that don't have tusks nearly as long as that. There's probably very little advantage for a female itself to have monstrous tusks like that. But not helping her in any way with feeding that the others can't get. So it's not a hugely beneficial thing. It's just a circumstantial thing. Genetics has played a part, and also the fact that their diet here requires much more use of the trunks than it does of the tusks themselves, and therefore the tusks grow much longer than what we see in places like Djuma. But she's an impressive specimen when you look at the length of those tusks in relation to the length of her head, or just even if you compare them to just now when she was walking with her calf. That calf is probably easily 5-6 years old, maybe more, and you could see that the tusks themselves have more height than what that calf would have. Sammy, those tusks, they're not going to weigh as much as you think. They're not very thick, so while they are very long, they're not hugely thick. So in terms of weight, I would imagine both tusks would be probably in the vicinity of... It's tricky. It's very difficult in terms of these things, but the density of ivory is quite heavy. So I would imagine that those tusks must be easily probably 50 pounds each. Maybe more, maybe 60 pounds each actually is probably what I would go with. 50, 60, somewhere there. They not thick. You know, when you talk about 100-pounders in South Africa, those are tusks that are like this. At the lip, they are very, very wide, and you know they're dense. Whereas these are probably only about that, so they're kind of half the size. So 50 would be probably 50, 60, somewhere there, I would imagine. I mean, I might be wrong. I might have overestimated slightly. I definitely don't think that I have underestimated. I don't think that they would weigh more than that at all. So still a massive set of tusks for a female, though. Right, so we're going to leave her and let her carry on feeding. We might see her again later. While we kind of carry on southwards, it sends you back across to Pat, who's left his lions. And I wonder what he's looking for now.
Well, Tristan, I am looking for what started out to be leopards, so we are heading south right now, looking for leopards, hoping that maybe Hosanna or Tingana, whoops, sorry there, everyone in the back, Tingana might show up, but we thought, well, we're on our way, why not go and check the hyena den, eh? See what is happening there. We have had some activity. They've actually changed back to the den that I was first exposed to when I came to Djuma. They did move briefly, but have since returned. And the cubs are as playful as ever. So hopefully either Corky or Pretty is around and the cubs decide to come out to play. I'm just heading down Philemon's cut line, no, Philemon's dip. Philip, has my favourite animal changed at all throughout my training? Oh, that's a really good question. I think because it was elephants and lions, and I mean still they are amazing. They're such beautiful creatures, but after spending so much time with Hosanna, I think the leopards have made their way up into my favourites as well. I also love monkeys of any sort, baboons or monkeys. As cheeky as they are, as much of a nuisance as they can be, they are so cute and so funny. So they are also up there. I mean, every animal is out here is awesome. It's really hard to pick a solid favourite. It is always kind of chopping and changing as you learn more things, see new things, see things that you wouldn't really expect to see. What about everyone else joining me on this drive? Tell us your favourite animal, and I might even be able to go out and find for. I know on dive we did have a few people with their select favourites that we would go out and find during our dives. I remember everyone being very fond of the porcupine fish with its big dog-like eyes. That was probably one of our most frequent requests that we would get on Dive Live. Chitty Chatty Meg lions are your favourite. Well, that's good. They are also my favourite. I'm just having a look out here. There's something spotted. Oh, a sausage tree. Ah, it's flowering. Very cool. Very cool. Good spot. I will not take credit for that spot. That was James and the Batman on the back with me. So just at the bottom of the tree, you have the flowers of a sausage tree, which of course is not a common sight here in Juma. More likely to see over in the Mara. I think this is the only one in Juma. Yeah, that's really cool. And it's cool to see it coming into flowering as well. I did get asked earlier what the... No, Lou, it hasn't ever produced sausages. You can't get me with that one. I'm new, but not that new. But I got asked at the start of the drive similarities or parallels between the marine and the terrestrial environment. And I thought about it. All of these deciduous trees are kind of like a very slowed down version of corals and their polyps. So corals at night time will extend their polyps, and during the day will retract them. And these deciduous trees are kind of doing that on a very slow timeline. So they are shedding their leaves and then extending them back out when the time is right, except this is seasonal rather from day to night. So there is another similarity. Moving on, we are very close to the hyena den now. So hopefully they want to pay us a visit, or they want to come out while we pay them a visit. Don't forget, everybody, any questions, any comments, please use that hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or just type it in to the YouTube chat stream. We have had some really good questions this morning. Thank you, everyone. Well, I make a wrong turn and correct myself. Let's go back over to Tristan in the Mara, who has got himself some big mammals.
Well, we are now with a different grouping of ellies. So we drove 100 meters down the road and we've come across another large herd that is kind of milling about, and they're on both sides of the road. But you can see that the sun is just slowly starting to come out, and isn't the color beautiful? You've got these beautiful kind of greens that are coming through on the bushes, and that sort of more brownish kind of grass, white tusks and dark elephants with a sort of misty background. It's absolutely kind of a picture at the moment, and these ellies are just slowly kind of striding through, and there are so many around at the moment. It's wonderful to have. I love it when we see lots of ellies all together. It's my favorite thing when there's a big kind of grouping of elephants all together and they're kind of milling around on both sides of you. It really is a kind of special way to spend a moment in Africa. And like I say, you obviously don't get a sense of how many are here, but essentially we've got elephants that are stretching from my left, which is the ones you're kind of watching there, and if you come right, you'll see that they go all the way along and they kind of head all the way around and back into this kind of thicket. So all the way along there's more ellies, more, and even more down towards the back end over there. And then the other herd that we were with just now, they're on top of the ridge in the background there. So there is a lot of elephants around in this section, and like I say, this is just this side of the road. On the other side of the road we've got a whole bunch more too. So it's kind of elephant heaven in many respects, and they look all thoroughly happy with life at the moment. I suppose you would be after a few weeks of dry weather here. A lot of rain means good things for ellies. It means a lot of mud, which is always good for their skin, and it also means a lot of growth of grasses and small trees and those kind of things, and so they are going to benefit hugely from a lot of rain, and that's probably why we're seeing quite a few of them out and about. Also, this cooler weather means that they'll start coming out of the marsh area and start moving into these kind of sections. The cool weather mixed with rain is going to allow them to get into these more big open grassland areas, and like I say, not complaining at all. To have lots of ellies around is always an absolute treat. And they really are a docile bunch out here as well. You know, they are the odd ones that can be a bit cheeky, as the case with Juma, but for the most part, they are fairly... Well, that one's got hairy cheeks. Look at that. The Mara elephants are putting on an odd show this morning. That's a hairy-cheeked elephant. I've never seen hairs that long on the cheeks of an elephant. That's ridiculous. No, man. You can see they go pretty much all the way to even where the eyes are. Now, normally with ellies, you'll get their hair along the sort of ear area and ear canal. Now, is it grass? Do you think it's grass or is it hair? Come on, Lou. You can see better than I can. I've got a tiny little screen to look at. She's too far for me to see. Is it grass? I don't know if it is. It almost looks hair-like or grass-like. Now with the sun, it looks more grassy. Yes, I think grass is probably a better call on this one. Grass that is stuck to mud. Is that what we're going to go with? Because otherwise we've got a hairy-cheeked elephant, which would be very odd indeed. Now, let me get my binos out for this. I need to have a proper look to actually see if what I can see. No, it is grass. She's got grass also stuck on her shoulders. She's been throwing grass while she was still wet, and it's kind of stuck. For a moment there, I thought that's very odd to have such long hair on her cheeks, but it's actually grass that's kind of stuck on her body. If you look sort of just behind her ear, above her front, on her front leg area, you'll see that there's grass that's kind of stuck a little bit lower for me, Arch. There we go. So there's a bit of grass that's kind of stuck to her side of her body as well. So she's obviously had a good time after being wet and kind of full of mud, and then slapped herself with grass, and that's all stuck on her, and now she looks more woolly than she does sort of bare-skinned. Very funny though. Like I say, on the little screen that we were watching, it looked just like hair that was coming off. And remember also at ellies, they have that kind of wiry hair. Not brainwashed. Well, okay. I'm glad that you are not brainwashed by whatever is trying to brainwash you. But are African elephants larger, or Asian elephants larger? African elephants are the heavier of the two and larger. So they get a little bit bigger than what the Asian elephants do. So these guys, I mean, here in the Mara, you know, the females we see are pretty similar to the ones in Juma in terms of size. I find the males in South Africa bigger for some reason. They're just bulkier in many respects. They kind of have much more intimidating, bigger heads. Even though the guys here have very big tusks, I just find those ellies in South Africa just to be kind of, they seem bulkier. It's probably not the case at all. And you know, we often talk about sizes and things, and it's very difficult to measure size without actually seeing things side by side. But I have yet to come across a male elephant here that's kind of made me think to myself, well, that's one of the bigger elephants I've seen here in the Mara, that is. I mean, I'm not saying in East Africa, because there are some massive elephants in East Africa. If you go down to Amboseli and to Savo, you'll find really kind of big guys that hang around down that area. Chulu Hills, there's some big boys in that side of the world. But there's just nothing, I don't know, quite like one of those big Kruger bulls. Those big, bulky kind of guys with those massive heads and those thick tusks. The tusks might not be long, but they are very, very thick, and I don't know, there's just something about them that seems to be far more intimidating than what a lot of the males here look like. It's probably also because we don't get, you don't get the same sense of scale, because here, being so open, a lot of the animals sort of get lost in the openness, if that makes sense. It's a kind of a weird thing, is that the ellies don't look as big because they're kind of in the big grasslands, and there's not really much to compare them to. Whereas in Juma, when they're towering over a bush that's right next to you, you kind of get a bit more of a sense of scale. If that, I don't know. I mean, that maybe is only just for me. Maybe it's not the same for everybody, but they could, like I say, be the exact same size. We just kind of tend to see size differences when we travel around, and you know, it's often a guide thing. James always talks about how, you know, we often compare size of animals, and this one's always the biggest, and those kind of things, and it's actually a lot closer than what you think. I remember when Anderson was around and kind of competing with Tingana around the Marakeng area on Arathusa, everybody was, Anderson is the biggest, Anderson is massive. And then when you actually see the two together, you realize that there wasn't as much of a difference as everybody thought. While Anderson was slightly bigger, it's not as much as you kind of think about. And so comparing sizes of animals, you've got to be very careful. It's one of those things that's always subjective, and unless they're right next to each other, you've got really no chance in terms of getting it accurate. Well, completely accurate, should we say. But how beautiful is that? I think it's very pretty with the greens and the sunlight. In the background you'll also hear a bird that's calling, and that's our friend the rufous-naped larks. They are everywhere here. You'll hear them calling regularly. As you drive along, you hear them, and then they kind of sit, and they're able to kind of make a lot of noise for a rather small bird. There's one thing about the Mara as well, is that, you know, often kind of drive around here and we talk a lot about the things that we see and those kind of things, but there's a lot of interesting sounds that you hear in the Mara that is a little bit different to what you hear in Djuma, particularly in the summer months in Djuma. Djuma becomes an incredibly loud place in summer, particularly at night. You'll get a lot of frogs and cicadas that call during the day, and you get a lot of kind of insect activity and noises, and the Mara can actually be quite a quiet place. When the storms start to build, it's quite an interesting thing, is that it can go deathly silent. It was weird the other day when we were sitting with Kikenya, and that storm, just before it broke and it actually started to rain, there was not a single sound that you could hear. It was eerie. In fact, you know, you were sitting and you're seeing animals and you felt like you were in the bush, but you weren't hearing things, and you forget just how much audio there actually is when you're out in the bush. And sometimes, you know, when it goes quiet like that, it almost feels odd, because it feels like you've removed a section of it, and it changes your kind of perception of what is wild and what isn't. So when you don't hear stuff, and when it's quiet like that, and when I say quiet, I mean there was not a single bird, there was not anything. All you could hear was wind that was blowing, but yet you could see a cheetah, you could see Thompson's gazelles, zebras, there was ellies around, but you could not hear a whisper or a word or anything like that. Now, when you are in Djuma and you see any of those animals, you often hear things because the terrain is so much thicker that animals have to move through it, and so ellies brush past bushes and there's that scraping sound, whereas here it's quiet. They walk through the grass and you hardly hear anything, and it's a weird kind of sensation. So when the birds stop calling, because they're probably the majority of the sound out here, it changes the whole kind of perception of things. That's an odd kind of feeling to have complete silence when you are looking at a whole bunch of animals. See a little one that's super cute, that's just emerging as well. Lots and lots of babies, which is always good to see as well. It means that populations are growing. Now, obviously here there's a lot of issues with ellies, and East Africa has had its fair share of elephant poaching. While we've had the rhino poaching sort of increase, they've had a lot of kind of problems here with ellies, and so it's always nice when you see little ones. Hopefully they're going to be well protected and looked after. I mean, the Mara is not too bad, but when you get down towards Tsava and those areas, they've got a lot of issues with elephant poaching down there. Mikey, do elephants have big brains? Well, yes, Mikey, they do. If you have a look at the size of their head, you'll notice that they've got very large heads, which means that they've got to house a rather large brain. Their brain is a very similar size to ours. Now, us as people, we have a very kind of large brain in relative to our size, and so their brain being the same size as ours makes them very intelligent, but not the same size relatively speaking. So a percentage of their body, it's smaller than what ours is, but it's still a very, very big brain comparatively to other animals, and they use it very well. They're an incredibly intelligent animal. A lot of the time they're actually not given enough credit to how intelligent they are and how emotions and those kind of things work for them. So they do have a lot of that goes on. I thoroughly enjoy watching ellies just from that point of view, is that there's these very strong social bonds, and they have an incredible intelligence amongst them when they work out where they're feeding, where they're going, what's their environment is around them, the kind of social structures within everything, and intricacies as they go about their kind of movement. Now I'm just going to go forward slightly because there's a bush right here that is in the most inconvenient spot that I want to just get past, because it looks like they might cross the road in front of us, which will be quite nice. So just gonna head past this next bush, which will be kind of perfect, I think, for them to come past. There we go. It will surely help Archie with his ability to actually show you all of these ellies, which will be good. Now, don't turn. They were all heading slowly this way. Now they sort of turned slightly. What's interesting with these guys is that there's a constant kind of movement of them back and forth. They've already crossed the road once, so these guys have gone from left to right, and now it seems as though they're going to go from right to left. So don't know why they keep crossing the road, but they do. It often happens here. Right, so it sounds like Brent has followed Amber Eyes and followed her to a pot of gold, because he's now got the rest of the Niconico Pride.
Well, we've got, I think, 6 Niconicomas and 2 little Mangen males, and they are steadily moving towards the southeast, and they are looking a little bit nervous. It could be all the noise the Avoca males are making. Here comes 2 of those Mangens. You can see how much better they're looking. Louise is telling me and repeating everything I say to me at the moment, just for fun. It's okay, Louise, I'll forgive you. There's the little Niconico boy as well. There, Jean, you see him. There he is. You can see his little mane starting to develop. Oh, I have a little argument going on between Amber Eyes. Now, don't worry, I had a closer look at the blood on Amber's feet. It's not from her, it's from a kill. There was actually stomach content on her left foot and blood on her right, but it wasn't from her. It must be something small, because she doesn't look that fat. The rest of the pride look absolutely famished. They are hungry. Excuse me for a second, I just need to be on the radio. Yeah, they headed south, and now they're in the block between Euphorbia and First Rock Road. Best access is they're heading straight towards Euphorbia, so come along Euphorbia Road, and I'll listen out for you.
Copy, thanks.
Here we go. Hip Scar is back. Oh, I didn't see her earlier. So there's more. It looks like all 5 adult females of the Niconico Pride have rejoined, of course, because Hipscar was with the young Niconico male, and they've been missing from the Pride for quite some time. So, of course, we've seen there's the third Mangen male. Apparently, I've seen him, but someone saw him recently, said he was really not looking well. These other 2 seem to, I mean, have recovered a little bit after the rain. But if that young boy is by himself, and is of course no things, I don't think to hunt, and it could be quite distressing. He might be in a bit of trouble. I'm gonna on ahead of the lions again, and while I do that, let's send you back to Patricia.
So we have found taxi. After this road, in hopes that we do see one of our leopards. It's been very cool learning about tracking. I'm finding it a very interesting thing to do. So while we continue to do this tracking, let's head back over to the Mara and see our good pal Tristan.
Well, good luck, Pat. Tracking is a science that takes a long time, or an art, should we call it? Actually, it's an art form more than anything else. That takes a long time to learn, and, you know, he's in the right hands if he's going to spend some time with people like Herbie and Rex. They're going to definitely help him out in terms of being able to learn how to track a little bit better, but it takes a bit of time, does tracking, and like I say, none of us are at the same level as what Herbie and Rex are, and it takes some time to kind of get even comfortable in your own tracking before you do it. But anyway, you can see we're still with our Ellies. They're slowly but surely kind of coming closer to the road. It's a beautiful grouping, though. These females are seriously pretty with these big tusks that they've got. You can see very dark in color at the moment, so lots of mud on this particular one. Had probably a really good mud bath somewhere along the line. It looks as though it's rolled around in mud and decided to have the best time at some point during the course of the night, and it seems as though it was fairly successful, wasn't it? Okay, so that will be Mom and her little one. That will be together, and they're still just feeding their way slowly on grass, kind of towards us or past us is probably going to be where they're going to go. They're going to head over the road fairly shortly. It's always funny to watch them trying to cross the road, because on both sides of the road there's often these kind of little steep banks from where they've graded and gotten the road nice, and the elephants are so big that they slip a little bit, so sometimes it takes them a bit of time to kind of get down, and there's often a little bit of sort of sliding as they come down the banks. Now this particular one is not too steep, so easily negotiable. There we go, little slide, and down they go. Now what's also quite interesting is if you look, it's going to be tricky, but if you look at the trunks, the tip of the trunks and the front feet, you'll see how wet they are. They're almost taken on a sort of translucent look about them. So that's often the case when it's damp like this. It's the same as when you kind of sit in a bath for too long and you get sort of dead men's fingers. It's the same with the Ellies. There's just so much moisture around that their trunks go this kind of whitish translucent color, and so do their feet. But there we go, they've crossed the road and they've decided that's the way that they're going to go and feed. And with them crossing, we're probably going to also start meandering our way out of this particular section. There's lots and lots of Ellies here, but we're going to leave them to themselves. Unfortunately, the side that they've crossed, the sun is so bright on that side that we're not going to be able to see too much at all. So I want to just try and carry on a little bit. Where we're trying to head to find these cheetah is still so far away that I don't know if we're going to get there in time to drive. So I think I might just quickly check for Kikenya instead. She was last seen right here, so we'll rather look for her quickly and see if we can't come up with anything. It's also a beautiful area on that burnt section. We were there yesterday. There was lots of hyenas and lots of tommies, and there was audio for lions, and so lots of kind of things that can happen. So worthwhile checking out that particular section, that's for sure. It looks like it might be a nice day today. I think after all that mist and stuff, hopefully the sun's going to come out. So meadow elephants like mud for the simple reason that it helps with maintaining a healthy skin condition. So they will take mud and they're going to roll in it, they're going to play in it, they're going to pack it on them, and not only does it cool that body down and creates a sort of layer between them and the sun that helps to keep their temperatures constant, but also what it's going to do is it's going to exfoliate, so it's going to get rid of any kind of skin cells that are maybe dead, keep that skin in good condition, and it's going to help with the removal of parasites. Now you might think, well, how does mud get parasites off? Simple fact is that it cakes on them, so it gets hard and they go and rub on a tree, and as they rub, that caking kind of factor often cakes around a tick or a parasite, and as they rub it pulls that off and gets rid of them. So it's a very good way of keeping the skin in really good condition and making sure that it's kind of constantly nice and clean. Oof, there's lots of water that's fallen here. You can see the marshy areas are starting to return once again, which is interesting. It was all dry here. There was no water, surface water at all, and now you can see on both sides of the road, and there's a bit kind of creeping in off the road as well. So it's a lot wetter than it was a few days ago, that's for sure. And I'm not surprised. The amount of rain we had yesterday and the day before, well, not so much the day before that is quite something. So I'm not surprised that we're getting quite a bit of water lying around. Makes driving quite interesting, that's for sure, particularly in good old Quito. Quito's got a nice habit of just deciding that it wants to go the opposite direction to which way you want to go. So it'll just suddenly kind of go veer off on the left, particularly when it's wet. It just kind of does its own thing. So one has to be a little careful when driving Quito and make sure that they're not driving too fast, and especially, like I say, in slippery conditions like it is now. As soon as it dries out again, then everything is okay. Right, cheetah or leopard, now's the time. Funny enough, I've not seen a leopard in any of these trees that we see here. So as much as we've seen leopards further up this road on a lot of these trees, this particular section, for some reason, I haven't. I know there was when I was here last, there was a sighting of the shepherd's tree male just off this section, a little bit on our left-hand side, and he had 2 porcupines in a tree, which was quite something. There's a bird of prey. Who are you? And what are you? Let's quickly just check what this bird is. I just want to have a quick look at what's sitting. Oh, now it's against the light completely. Now, to tell what that is going to be seriously tricky. I hazard a guess, potentially a Wahlberg's, just given its size. It doesn't look big enough for a step, but anyway, we'll try and figure it out. I'll try to get a better angle on it, and while I do that, let's send you to Brent with the Nkuhumas on the move.
Isn't it beautiful seeing so many lions? It's difficult to get an exact head count at the moment, but we're going to try now. I think it's 10 or 11, so there obviously might be some, well, one's mating, one of the young Nkuhumas, but it looks like all 5 adult females are here, plus 2 Mangens. And as I said, Amber looks like she's eaten something small by herself. The rest of the pride, however, are looking quite hungry. But it looks like they have walked far enough, and they are going to lie down now. It's amazing, look at that many lions and how easily they just melt into the bush. Disappear. Well, they definitely look hungry, so it might be worth following up on them. I think they're going to snooze now. Let's try to get a bit closer. Okay. So they seem to have... Well, let's go to the biggest pile of lions. It's always best to go to the biggest pile of lions, in my opinion. They are a little bit spread out with the 2 Mangen males in between them. There we go. No updates on that very unwell looking Mangen male from yesterday. No one has seen him this morning yet. I think he's not too far away from camp. But I think this is where the Nkuhumas are going to nap. Even Money is wondering if I got a head count on the Nkuhumas. 2 Mangens, 8 Nkuhumas. No, 9 Nkuhumas, including the little male. Unfortunately, there are quite a lot of game drive vehicles that are trying to get into the sighting, so we can't stay for too long. We've been with them for quite a while now. Unfortunately, a lot of that they were moving through some very bad signal area, but it's good. We know where they are for this afternoon. What are you doing, little one? Walking through the little leadwood. That didn't look very comfortable. Munching on some grass. Of course, a bit of grass aids in the digestion if they've got a bit of an upset stomach or whatnot, or if they're trying to purge a bit of the stomach. And also, they are just quite hungry at the moment. Oof, wind picking up. They won't be unhappy with that. Keeps them nice and cool during the day. Kathy is wondering whether it's unusual for a pride to adopt young male lions. It is indeed, Kathy. There's no real logical reason to it. The Talamati male makes a little bit more sense than the Mangen males, due to the fact that the Talamati pride and the Nkuhumas are related. They're from the same pride, they're split. However, the Mangens have nothing to do with the Nkuhumas at all, so it doesn't really make sense at all. But that's the joy of being in the wild. You never know what can happen. Okay, well, these lions get lazy. I'm going to let some other people come have a look at the lions. So we're going to move out and let some other people come in. In the meantime, we're going to send you all the way back to the Masai Mara, to Mr. Tristan. And I didn't quite hear what he's got.
Well, Brenty, well done. At least that you found the lions, and hopefully they will get a meal. It's always, when you see lions that are skinny, hope that they kind of get what they need. Now, what you saw there briefly, because they've been sitting very patiently for the last 10 minutes, and as soon as we now want to show you them, they've all flown away. But they were lesser kestrels that were all sitting there, that were kind of taking it easy. Let's just give it 2 seconds, because I can see a whole bunch of them flying, and I wonder if they're not going to go back and land there. It is starting to warm up, so they might start to kind of move off. There's the reason that they've moved, is because there's another bird of prey that's just come through. Now, what that is tricky. Hold on, it's one of the harriers, I think. Looks like possibly a juvenile pallid harrier that came through, and that's probably why the kestrels all scattered, is that they saw that coming and they were a bit nervous of being eaten by another bird of prey, and so they would have all kind of flown. No, they're not coming back, unfortunately. It seems as though they... Although, are they? Hold on. Here they come. They're coming from the right now, so there's a whole bunch of these kind of kestrels that are going to hopefully land once again on the same tree that they were at. Are they? No, they're bypassing the tree. You can just kind of see them flying. There's one that's landed. Okay, so there we go. They are landing, which is good news. Now, what you'll find is there's males and females. The female that's landed there, you'll notice she's kind of streaked on her back, and she's got a very prominent little malar stripe that comes down from her beak, and then you'll find a little bit of yellow and quite sort of plain in comparison to what the males are. Now, the males, unfortunately, none of them have landed. They landed in a different tree further away. They are ones that have got kind of a warm buff underpart, and then this grey sort of wing pattern, and then a sort of chestnut back, and they actually have landed in the next tree to the left, Arch. So the one that's got foliage on it, that one right there. So if you look on the... oh no, man, every time I try and show you these things, they fly, which is annoying. So the male should be there somewhere. Is that now a female on top again? Of course it is. I was trying to show you a male who was sitting so nicely, but as soon as we want to show them, they just fly. Now, as he moved to the next tree, no, yes, he has. Okay, let's go forward. Hold on, Arch. Let's try and see if we can get a better view. Now, these guys are fairly common in certain areas. You can see them quite a lot. Open grassland. They are a migratory species, so they're Palearctic migrants. So they cross all the way into Europe area. So they do move quite a bit, but they are fairly common. I mean, you see them in certain parts quite regularly. So that particular tree there is a male that is going to hopefully sit very, very still, and you'll see they're quite pretty little kestrels. They've got beautiful yellow legs with this little yellow cere and grey head, and like I say, a warm sort of buffy chest area, and then that grey kind of goes onto the wings, and then a more chestnut back than anything else. And these guys are fairly small. They're not a very big bird at all, as you probably saw when they were flying about. They're almost, I would say, slightly bigger than our brown-headed parrots. They're also with a much longer tail than what the parrots have, but that would be kind of a rough sort of size scale for all of you to kind of use. But often see them like this roosting on the tops of trees, and they will probably be waiting for it to warm up a little bit, and then they'll hunt over these grasslands. And they normally kind of the best time to actually see them moving about is in the afternoons. They make a lot of noise before they start to roost. They'll hunt along, kind of calling, and then they find a tree like this where they'll take it easy. And most of these trees, if you look carefully with binos, have actually got these little lesser kestrels sitting in them, and they sometimes are accompanied by the Amur falcons. I haven't seen any Amur falcons in this particular grouping, but a lot of the time mixed in with Amur falcons. Not so much at Djuma, because the terrain isn't right for these guys, but when they are migrating, you often see them all kind of mixed up together and kind of chilling out. Good. Anyway, let's carry on, see what else we can find. We've gotten to the area where we're going to look for Kikenya. She was hopefully is going to pop out for us somewhere here. We're going to do a road that kind of takes us into this section and back around, and hopefully that's going to be the winning ticket to finding Kikenya to finish out our morning. It's the idea anyway. Right, now I haven't found any spots, but sounds like Pat, who's having a magic morning, has found some spots down south.
Yes, a little spotted star here. We have found a leopard. So all of our searching has been good. We're not sure who this is. We think maybe Tingana, but it is quite flat, so we do not know at the moment exactly who it is. But I'm sure everyone joining us today will have their ideas of who it is, so please do share using that hashtag SafariLive or the YouTube chat stream. Tell me who you think this leopard is. It's very flat. It's starting to heat up again after our few days of rain, so the animals are a little bit more inactive now, as opposed to other overcast mornings that we have had. Sorry? Who was that?
He was very excited.
Oh, sorry. Don't worry, that was just me not hearing properly. Yes, I'm excited as well. It's been a while since I've had a leopard live, since being on leave. I did see little Shlalamba the other day, but that was on a training drive without a camera, and that was my first time with a little girl, which is really nice. And if this is in fact Tingana, it will also be my first time with Tingana. That's good to see. I've seen them all on the family trees and everything. It's nice to see them all coming to. Yep, okay, so other people also thinking that it is Tingana. But I don't think we're going to know for sure until we get some movement out of him. Whether we are going to get some movement, that is another question in itself. Thanks, Fancy Cheetah. Thank you. So he did spot the smiley face. That is characteristic of Tingana's shoulder. So we must have Tingana here. And I won't go and giving him a nickname like I did with Hosanna. Apparently it was not well received. So he shall remain Tingana coming from my mouth. Of course, the old Duke of Juma. We're not sure exactly when he was born, but we know he's around 12, 13 years old. 13 years old, yeah, 13 years old. Quite an old leopard. It's really uncertain how much longer he's going to hold this territory for, and how long left he has. He's approaching the latter years of his life. And then what happens after that? Well, I think we're all going to be watching very closely. Will Hosanna be able to hold the territory? Will Hukamori or one of the other neighbours, maybe Anderson, come in? We won't know. Time will tell. But as for now, he's very, very comfortable in his spot. I don't think he's even moved a muscle. Doesn't even look like he's breathing from where I'm looking right now. You can only kind of slightly see his belly moving. Yes, everyone, I'm also happy to spend time with Tingana. I swear he can hear his name. I said his name before we went live and his head darted up straight away. And then I said his name again. Boom, head up. Let's try the third time. Tingana. Nah. Just plain coincidence. I do think though that leopards will definitely kind of become accustomed to our voices and the sounds of the cars. I often wonder whether they would be able to know who is in the vehicle just based on the sound of our voices. Ooh, what have you seen there? Jeez, he's a big cat. Really thick around the neck. Beautiful. What have you spotted? Pricked up looking around for something, but probably nothing, and I can almost guarantee his head will drop soon. He will go back to resting under the shade of, well, not really the densest tree I've ever seen. Dory says Tingana is thinking, do you guys mind? I'm trying to sleep. And yes, I hope we're not bothering him too much. I do like to respect the old Duke. How awesome. And it looks like his belly is pretty big right now. Yeah, pretty big tummy, so must have eaten somewhat recently. I can't see any remnants of anything, but it does look like he's definitely fed. No birds seem to be shouting at him at the moment, which must be peaceful for him as well. It's very common to see a leopard going about its day, not even really doing anything that looks threatening, and they'll just be shouted at by everything, which I suppose is the price you pay for being a carnivore, and everything being your meal. I can never get over how thick the necks are of leopards, and the backs and their shoulders. So strong. So very strong. Of course, for hoisting kills and climbing up trees, which they do very well. And whoop, off he goes. Probably relocating, looking for a more shady spot, I would say. Where he was pretty scarce in terms of shade, and now that everything is blooming in summer and there's a lot of trees around, I'm sure he can find better cover than what he had. So I will stay on his tail and just follow his movements. And while I'm doing that, let's head back over to the Mara and see Tristan again.
Indeed, we have a lot of buffalo. We owe it money, and that we have done something to offend it, as is the case with this individual too. Not very happy with our presence. They're kind of looking around as if to say, what are you guys doing here, and have you brought anything else that we should be worried about? But as we pan off to the left, you will see that there is not only a few buffalo here. There are hundreds of them that are spread out all across this kind of open clearing. They're slowly moving on to the burn section, and I would reckon this herd is it's a big herd. I mean, as you cross over there, you'll just see that there's buffalo spread out everywhere, and they are deep. They go far towards the escarpment, so lots and lots and lots of buffalo. This is where what we need to do is actually round this all up, put it on the back of the car, and then quickly drive to South Africa, drop this off in Torchwood for our Nkuhuma Pride, and then come back again, because they would relish the thought of having a go at a herd of buffalo of this size. This is the kind of perfect thing for the Nkuhumas. They know exactly what they want. Now I'm going to just go forward a little bit, just so that we can actually get a better view of them. The interesting thing is that they are very, very, very shy and very skittish, this particular herd. As soon as we got here, they started to run, and even now, as we've started up, they're kind of moving quite fast. I wonder if they weren't accosted by lions during the course of the night, and that's why they're a little bit on the nervy side. Their tracks come from quite far. They've crossed over from sort of Riverside, Mara Riverside, crossed the main road, and then now coming down towards sort of Mara and Guy and southwards towards what we call Kilo 2. So they're moving a long way, but they're moving the wrong way if they think that they're going to safety, because they are moving slowly but surely deeper and deeper towards Sausage Tree Pride territory, and we know how the sausages love them some beef, and so these guys best be very careful about where they end up moving from here. But like I say, it really is a massive grouping, and you can see how nervous they are. They're kind of trotting around, and they seemingly a little bit kind of shy of what's going on, and like I say, I wonder if they haven't had a rough night. But there really is a lot of them in this area. It's incredible to see how many there actually are. I would love to actually do a count. Let's see. If we extrapolate a group of 10 and then we apply it to the rest of the herd. Okay, so that little grouping that Archie was showing you there, that is just over, so there's probably about 14 of them in that little grouping there. Now, if you use that as a way to measure how many buffalo we've got here, if we just pan that way, you can see how many those would be in that kind of grand scheme of things. Look in the distance. As you can see, there's also a whole bunch of animals moving way off in the distance. So I reckon this herd is probably a good 500, maybe more. That would be in this area. If I just take little groupings and kind of extract that out, you can see, like I say, they're moving way off in the distance. And it's been a long time since we've seen herds like this at Djuma. We used to get herds like this before the drought. Back in 2011, 2012, there was a herd that passed through from Djuma to Chitwa Dam, through Little Gowrie, Hofmans, into Arathusa, and then up towards Simamili, and then down Elephant Plains and into Londolozi. And that herd was easily, I wonder if there must be footage of it somewhere. I would imagine it was seen on a drive, but that herd was easily 1,000 animals together. So there used to be some really large groups of buffalo, but you can see as Archie is panning across how many there are just in the distance. It goes a long way, this herd. We're right at the tail end of it, and there's still a lot of buffalo where we are, so you can imagine how big this group is, and they would be a prime target for, I'm sure, many of the lion prides. And if they keep heading the way that they're heading, which is kind of straight towards Sausage Tree Pride. If they go over that ridge in the distance there, down towards the escarpment, that's where the sausages are, over that ridge, or where they've been hanging about. I don't know if they are there right now, but they've been hanging about on the other side of that. And so these guys would then be prime targets for the Sausage Tree Pride. A herd of this size is exactly what that pride likes to look for, and then they just pick off individuals off the edges. So they wait for some of the bulls to kind of separate slightly, and that's what they go after, or any weak or injured ones that they can get to. But make no mistake, a herd of this size would also be something that you'd have to be quite careful of. It's big, it's a lot of animals, and they are certainly not going to take being hunted lying down. They will definitely try and kind of defend and try and protect themselves as much as possible, and you'll find that they'll kind of group together, and you can imagine that many hooves and horns coming towards you would be quite scary. Now, MG, how far am I from the closest buffalo? Just trying to see which one's closer. Am I on my right or on my left? Probably on my left, which would be, I would imagine, what do you reckon, Arch? 50 meters, 60 meters, maybe more. 60 meters from the closest one. Maybe not, actually. That's probably, I'd say 50. Let's call it 50 meters. When we first arrived, there was some that were much closer than that. So what you find with buffalo is the longer you sit, the more they kind of separate away from you. But if you drive, and if I had to drive right now, I could probably drive within 10 meters of some of them, maybe even closer if I really wanted to. But I think it's quite nice just to stop and let them kind of move around and do their thing. They're an incredible kind of animal to spend time with. I like spending time with buffalo herds. I think there's something about it. It's just cool to be in amongst one of the animals that everybody deems to be so dangerous. I think, and they're not really that bad with a car. If you're in a herd like this, and as long as there's not a stampede from lions kind of going through them, then generally you're okay. So, Lauren, very true. Buffalo do kill lion cubs if moms are not around and they find the cubs. They will stampede and charge and maim and horn and trample and do whatever they can to try and kind of flatten a lion. And that goes from even a big adult lion that is by itself, that is maybe injured or sick, they'll do the exact same thing. So that's just the scent more than anything else. So it's not the actual, little lion cub that they are scared of. They just smell lion and it enrages them and it makes them very defensive, and then they'll go after them, and the poor cubs obviously pay the price for that rage that they have. So it does happen, and has happened many times. You see it a lot in Botswana. I haven't heard of it too much here, to be honest, but in Botswana certainly is a big issue with lions that smash little lion cubs quite regularly. And I know in the Serengeti system it's been recorded, and I undoubtedly think that sometime in the Mara system buffalo have accounted for a loss of lion cubs in that they were aggressive and kind of squashed. Good. Now we're going to take this race. The buffalo turned up this little section quite nicely. Archie, you reckon we'll get through here easily? Yeah. Let's do this properly and quickly. No, not going to work without going into low range. Now we're going to have to try. There we go. Now we should be all right to get our way through. No, as long as we get it into first gear and not into reverse. Okay, well, we're going to try and get through here. We're not going to get stuck here, which is nice. But while we do that, let's send you across to Brent, who I wonder what he's up to now.
Get stuck, get stuck, get stuck, get stuck, get stuck. Please, Tristan, get stuck. Please, Tristan, get stuck. Please, Tristan, get stuck. As you can see, I'm fighting the wind down the down the Chitwa airstrip, and I've got a friend who, despite the wind and the movement of me driving, is hanging on the inside of my hat. I'm just going to get off the airstrip, and then I'll show you. Oof. So the wind's so strong, the sand is actually coming off the airstrip and hitting us in the face. strong wind. Okay, just get away from it slightly. And I'll show you my friend. Oh, my mic has come out, but that's okay. Very pretty little moth who's just been hanging on for dear life. There we go, put him in the light for you there, Jean-Andre. I'm not exactly sure which species, but isn't that pretty? Now, he's been there for about 15 minutes. He really doesn't want to let go of that. You can see how strong the wind is when it catches his wings. So I'm just going to go put him on a tree quickly. Whoa, let's just roll forward, yes, closer to the tree. Because even though it's nice having a friend in your hat, the problem is every time, oh no, and that handbrake, there we go. Every time the wind blows, I just get this little, whoa, I'm attached to everything today. A little thing coming into my eye, and it's quite distracting. Yeah, that is better than my hat. Please go. There we go. So there we go. No, not under my finger now. Oh, now he's flown. Okay. Right. Sorry about the noise. I just need to put that back in. It's going to be horrible noise while I put my hat back on. There we go. Okay. So we've come into Chitwa. I haven't been here for a while. Thought we'd come have a look. Maybe go past the dam. See if there's any eddies or anything about. Okay, so let's have a look. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe we'll see Sibui on the boundary. While we do that, let's go back to Patricia and Tingana.
Well, looks like we are joined here by a grazer. Not really, no. We just have Tingana munching on some grass right now. He's been doing it for about 3 minutes or so now. Probably to help clear out his internal digestive system of any parasites. Expelled through either end, maybe the mouth, maybe the other end. So the old Duke switching to a herbivorous diet briefly, momentarily. But no, we wouldn't say this is an omnivore. This is definitely still a carnivore. This is not doing this for nutrition. I wonder where your children are, Tingana. Where's little Tundi or Hosanna? Annette, I love seeing the leopards too. It's great sighting out here in the bush to see a spotted cat. I haven't seen any cheetah yet. That's the last cat I really need to see out here, but they are very elusive here in Djuma, and in the Mara we are more likely to see them. We did have a couple of searches while we were there, but no luck as of yet. But these spotted cats are enough for now. And where has he gone? Hold up everybody, I'm just going to reposition, see if we can get a better angle of him. So I think once he goes down into this drainage line out there, that we might... Oh no, he's right there still. Good. I think we'll lose him after that though. Still munching on some grass. Just roll. I think he's gonna come in front of us. No. Just roll forward. So Lou's just pointed out that that praying mantis I was speaking about earlier hasn't left. He must be enjoying this safari. Oh, I think we have Tingana scent marking. He has been doing that a lot, I've heard, lately. And he's going to make us move again, isn't he? Of course you are. So, we did see him before pick up on something from when he was laying down. I thought he was going to just change positions, but the wind is actually blowing right into where he was smelling, so he must have picked up on something, whether it be meat or another male leopard, or perhaps even a leopard's like tummy coming into estrus. So I'm not sure, but he definitely picked up on something. There we go, spraying again. Yes, sorry, I forgot to mention that, everyone. I did switch to a hat. It's got very hot out here, and a beanie just wasn't cutting it. What have you picked up on there, old fella? So, seen him spraying twice now. Of course, scent playing a big role in the definitions of territory here. It's the only bad thing about all of this greenery around at the moment, all of the trees being so full of leaves, is it's making a viewing of animals pretty difficult. I'll just wait for him to move before I head down. There we go, he's coming out into view anyway. Well, looks like he's laying back down after doing his scent marking. So let's head across and see what Brent is up to.
Well, we've spotted some wonderful little baby Egyptian geese. Quite a haul there. How many can we count? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, of course, as we know, from 9 little goslings, we normally end up with about 1 or 2 making it. You can see, even though we've had some rain, the Chitwa Dam is still quite low. But still the best spot to be in the northern Sabi Sands if you're a hippopotamus. You can see that strong wind I was talking about. Whipping. Across the water. But other than that, it's quite quiet here at the Chitwa Dam. Oh, there's a hippo next to the Egyptian geese. Sarah has posed a very interesting question. Are Egyptian goose babies called goslings or are they called ducklings? I would have to go, if you're being correct, they're ducklings. They're not goslings because, of course, Egyptian geese are not geese. Even though they are called geese, they are shield ducks. Interesting question, and I'm not sure of the correct answer, Sarah. That's why I say Egyptian goose babies, and that way I'm definitely right and can't be wrong. And I was hoping we might see the Pratten calls. Is that, what's that over there? Let's just get a bit further down this. And some other birds. We had some great birds here the other day. We had spoonbill and all sorts. Now, also just keeping an eye out for a crocodile. David has a very good idea. He says we should call them the ducklings with the G. There we go, a water monitor. Sneaking along the edge, he now realizes he's been spotted, so he's gone still. Now, of course, be quite a big threat to those little he would definitely, that Leguan would definitely try eat those little ones. Oof, hippopotamus. You can see how its tongue is slinking out, testing the air. Always nice to hear the hippos harumphing. It's a big monitor, that one. Right, we'll let it move along, and we're going to do the same. Oh my water dam. Probably about 60%, maybe 50%. So it's still plenty. And I crocodile up there. And it is not a little crocodile. That Tristan did not get stuck. He nearly got stuck. Louise was telling me what was happening. Let's go talk to him.
Well, I'm sorry about the gremlins, Brenty. It's never a nice thing when there are gremlins around. But as you can see, we're not stuck, which is always good news. We managed to just unfortunately be temporarily delayed by the fact that there was a lot more kind of mud than I thought there'd be, and we didn't have the traction to get up a rather steep little kind of turn in the road. So unfortunately our Kenya mission is probably somewhat restricted because of it. There's a hyena as well, so there's a hamakop and a hyena that's moving about, and so we can't really get up onto the road that I wanted to. It's just too wet and muddy and slippery and too steep for the car to get up there with any sort of proper conviction, and I don't feel like getting properly stuck because I'll never hear the end of it with Brent. So it was better that we just reversed out of there and got ourselves out rather quickly, but rather than kind of sitting and taking chances. The funny thing is the road itself would be fine. It's just where they've kind of graded the road that's the issue. But I wonder where this hyena's off to. It's getting quite warm now, so I'm surprised that it's out and about. I would have thought that it would have been wanting to rest by now, but you can see it's still milling around. It's even got its mouth open a bit. I think it's probably a little hot, and there's a hamakop in the foreground. So you can see the ditch that I'm talking about on the right. Now, this is where they grade the road, and the problem with that is that there's quite a steep sort of embankment that goes up. And that embankment, when there's been 500 buffalo walking over it, and a whole bunch of rain, makes it quite slippery, and so it makes life a little bit more tricky. Now what I'm trying to do is also just take off my jersey because it's getting quite warm. I was having an overheating moment there for a second, but I want to try and get a little closer to our hyena that's having a little drink, and try and see if we can have a better view of it. I'm pretty sure this is again part of that happy zebra clan we saw yesterday. So one of those members is what I would imagine it is. Or is there more? Is there a carcass there? Interesting. No, it's just a whole bunch of them lying down that Archie's just found. So he's just spotted under a tree. There's a bunch of them. So there they all are having a bit of... Is there a little one there? It does look like a little cub. There is a little cub. Okay. Now, those are very small, which is interesting. So I am not... I mean, that doesn't look like a den in any way whatsoever, but those are tiny. Those are still hyenas that are in a den itself. So I'm not sure why they are under a tree like that and not actually at a place. Maybe there's a little hole there that they can go in underneath. But there we go. There's a little den site. Well, little baby hyenas that should be at a den site. So I'd imagine that there must be a little kind of entrance into the ground. Now, Ala Ramoa, you were asking, is this the same hyenas that were hanging about I think you said in the mulchy corner. I'm not sure. It was the ones we saw yesterday that were... I'm trying to think. The ones that were all kind of grouped together, lying down on a big open kind of grassland area. There was a whole bunch together we saw late in the drive. Oh, naughty corner. Oh, naughty corner one. No. No, Timeout hyenas from a different clan, unfortunately. Timeout hyenas had to go and still spend some time at the Termite Mound, but that was very far north of where we are, so not the same clan, unfortunately. That was part of the Olololo clan. This is, like I say, Happy Zebras that we've got down here. We're quite a long way from where that was, so I'm just trying to see if we can actually see where the base of the hill is. So basically behind where these guys are, there's the escarpment in the background. You would have to follow that all the way along until you get to about there. So that's the hyena that's in the naughty corner, is all the way on that side. Still probably sitting there thinking, when is timeout over? I hope timeout is over for its sake, otherwise it's going to be a hot day if it's still sitting staring at a mound by this afternoon when we head out again. That'll be entertaining. Maybe on the way back we'll check for it and see if there's any sign of it still sitting. I doubt, though, that it would be. But I'm super intrigued by this kind of den that we've got here. It's not something that I expected to see, particularly not right there. Normally you see them where there's a few little mounds and a few kind of sort of bumps in the surface, and I don't see too many of those there. So that's pretty interesting that there are little ones milling about, but super cute. They're still tiny, those little ones. You can see they haven't even got their spots yet. They're kind of black in coloration. Now, where did they go? Okay, so there's where it must be. There must be a little kind of mound and a hole in the ground that they're going in and out of from there, and that's where Mom is on that side. How cool is this? Always nice when you discover a new den for an animal, and hopefully these guys will mill about. And it explains why yesterday we had so many of them around this area, and we were thinking that there might be a den site around here, and this explains it quite clearly, is that there is a den site, and so that's why everybody has been milling about in this particular area. But you can see Mom is a little bit kind of watchful. She's not 100% sure about us watching her even from the road, and we're a long way away from where she is at the moment. So Grayson, you've got a good name. My brother's name is Grayson. But hyenas live for, I mean, obviously it depends on systems and things like that, but generally for the most part 12 years is about the sort of age for hyenas. So quite a short lifespan in comparison to some of the other animals, but yeah, 12 years is the sort of average lifespan for hyenas, both here and down in Djuma as well. That's why Waffles at the moment is probably being overthrown, is because she's fast approached that number, and why she's probably receiving a little bit of a challenge from Soup in the North Clan, because she's at this stage getting very old, and so others are going to definitely come and try and challenge and try and kind of take on the matriarchal status. Super cute though. These little ones are always the cutest little things. And you can see I'd probably age these guys at about 3 months. That would be my guess for these. Sadly, very possible. There very well could be a warthog den right there that this hyena has taken over. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I initially thought it was somewhere towards the base of the tree, but obviously we saw the little ones move and then go down. So it probably is a little warthog burrow there that they're inside, and if we drove there, we'd find a quite distinct hole that they're using to be able to den in. The thing is that we don't really, so off-roading for hyenas is not really allowed in many respects. They do allow it for the North Clan, but for these guys we don't do it, so that's why we won't be going anywhere closer than what we are now. Plus we can see them quite fine, and I don't really want to disturb her. She's already very alert at the fact that I've stopped and I'm watching her while her little cubs are moving around, and so I don't want to stress her out or anything like that. We'll just leave her to enjoy the kind of space that she's got, and if she's happy for the little ones to be out while we're at this distance, then that's okay, that's perfectly fine. The little ones though are going to disappear shortly. The sun has come through and it's all of a sudden is baking hot. It's very, very warm, and so I'm not surprised that the little ones have headed indoors and have tried to kind of get out of the blistering hot sun. There you can see some other members of this clan. They've got their heads down. I wonder if they've got maybe a little bit of a carcass that they're just finishing up there. They might do. Looks like it. Is that one yanking on something? Looks like it is. So there's 2 of them that are milling there. Let's just go a little bit further forward, Arch, and see if we can get a better view of what's going on there. It's amazing how hot it got all of a sudden. Sure. So Lauren, no, she won't go to the bottom of the hierarchy. She'll just move down a notch, basically. So she'll go from matriarch to still high ranking, unless of course she gets absolutely hammered by Soup, and she ends up, you know, kind of getting hurt and can't actually defend herself too much, and then she'll fall down the status line. But then in that likelihood, she would probably be so bad that she would not be able to probably survive it. But so I don't think she'll go down far. I think she'll just still remain a high ranking individual, but she just won't be the clan leader anymore. And like I say, we know that she's old, and so her time with us is not going to be that much longer. You know, she's probably, I say you never know with animals, but you say probably a year or 2 at the most that she's got left in her. So, you know, she's not going to be kind of displaced all the way to the bottom, but if she gets injured and she gets hurt, well, then you never know where she's going to end up in all of this. But you can see hyenas busy shaking what's left of a carcass, and that carcass is not a new one. It looks like, if I can see correctly, it looks like a wildebeest skull to her bottom left, or by her left leg, should I say. And so this might be an old wildebeest that's now, with, like I was saying yesterday, with the rain, has softened up, and so it becomes a food source that they can then start to feed on once again. And that's probably why she's kind of shaking it, is just to try and kind of get, you know, rid of some of the dirt, and maybe there's some insects in there or something like that that she's not happy about, and just trying to clean it up. But you can see all of a sudden, so in the difference between just now and now is the heat haze that is all of a sudden crept in. So you can see kind of behind her how it's just hazing along, and this is because of the sun has really come out now. Mr. Fario, you say we get to play Guess the Dead Thing. It's one of your favorite games. Yes. Well, you know, playing Guess the Dead Animal is always fun, particularly when hyenas are involved, because it's normally dismembered into about 40 pieces, and so actually figuring out what it is can be quite tricky, particularly if it's been raining, because they drag things through the mud and then you can't actually see coat colors, and it can be quite hard. So game of Guess the Dead Thing is always an entertaining one for all involved, and I thoroughly enjoy watching this hyena kind of shaking this bone around, or meat, or whatever it is that it's got there. Right, from a spotty animal that is busy feeding and taking it easy to another spotty animal that seems to be taking it easy down in Juma.
Oh, taking it very easy indeed is the old Duke here. He's found himself a nice little wooden pillow there. And actually, I'll have to be quite honest, that looks like a comfy laying position. I'm very jealous of you now, old boy. Looking very comfortable and very relaxed. Sleeping peacefully out here. It's very quiet at the moment. I can hardly even hear a bird calling. There's very faint ones in the distance. But it's, yeah, very quiet, very peaceful. Zen moments with Tengana. Yes, siesta. Nice, nice siesta. It is pretty much as hot as the afternoon right now. Getting warm very quickly. I know when we started it was 21 degrees, 69 Fahrenheit, and I would say it's gone up quite a bit since then, at least 10 degrees Celsius, which I want to say 30 degrees Fahrenheit, but I'm probably wrong there with that conversion. So as we round out today's drive, it's been quite a good day. Started with the mating lions, and we were lucky enough to stumble on the Duke of Juma, Tengana. It's been good having all the cats around lately. really getting to spend some quality time with them. We were pretty spoiled in the Mara with lions, so to see them here has been really good, because it's not something that we see often and we take for granted when we go to the Mara. And of course, off air we had some hippos and some elephants. Unfortunately we couldn't show you them, but at least we got to experience it for ourselves. I may be speaking a little bit selfishly there. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. It's been such a great day, beautiful morning. I hope wherever you are in the world you enjoy the rest of the day or the rest of your evening. Don't forget, if this wasn't enough safari for one day, you can join us later on this afternoon at 4 p.m. Central African time. Hopefully we will see you all tuning in then.